The illusion of free will. It's something most of us never question. The quiet, comforting belief that we are the captains of our lives, that with every choice we make, from the small, everyday decisions to the ones that shape who we become, we are in full control. It feels natural, almost sacred, to believe that you are choosing your own path. But as you rest here, letting the noise of the day soften into stillness, I want you to gently lean into a quieter truth, that maybe things aren't quite as free as they seem. From the moment you open your eyes to the world, life has been shaping you. The way your parents held you, the words you learned to speak, the stories you were told, even before you had the power to choose. You were already becoming someone. Your preferences, your fears, your habits, all of them sprouted from soil you didn't plant. And that's not a failure. It's just how being human works. Think about this. When a thought appears in your mind, where does it really come from? When you suddenly crave something or feel drawn to someone, did you choose that feeling? Or did it arise on its own, whispered from the hidden corners of your memory, your biology, your past? Our brains are extraordinary, but they're also wired in ways we barely understand. They filter what we notice, how we feel, what we desire. And so often, we move through life, not as the authors of each moment, but as the readers, turning pages we didn't even know were written. Still, it doesn't mean you're stuck, or that nothing matters. In fact, noticing this illusion can bring a strange kind of freedom, because when you understand how much of your life is shaped by things outside your awareness, you begin to treat yourself with more kindness. You stop blaming yourself for every impulse, every misstep. You see that your mind is not your enemy. It's just a storyteller trying to make sense of everything it's learned. And that awareness, that soft, quiet awareness, is where your real power begins. So, as you lie here, drifting deeper into rest, let go of the pressure to control everything. Let go of the need to be perfect, or certain, or always in charge. You are not broken for being shaped. You are not weak for being influenced. You are simply human, complex, layered, beautiful. And in this stillness, where no choice needs to be made, where no decision needs to be right, you are free. Free in the way that matters most. Not in total control, but in deep, gentle understanding. Manufactured happiness, the happiness trap. We're told happiness is the goal, that if we work hard, think positive, and follow the right steps, we'll find it. The perfect job, the beautiful home, the smiling photos. But what if happiness, at least the kind we chase, isn't what we think it is? What if much of what we believe about happiness has been quietly shaped, not by our hearts, but by the world around us? The truth is, happiness can be manufactured, not in the way we create joy through love or meaning, but in how society defines it for us. From a young age, we're shown images, messages, expectations, smiles on screens, success measured in numbers, moments edited to look flawless. Slowly, we start believing that happiness is something to earn, something to buy, something that looks a certain way. But real happiness, it's softer than that, quieter. It doesn't always come with a spotlight or a finish line. Sometimes it's hidden in ordinary moments, like the warmth of a cup in your hands, or the way the light fades in the evening sky. These are moments no one sees. They don't look impressive, but they feel real. The trap, though, is convincing ourselves that we're not enough until we reach something more, that happiness is out there, just around the corner if we just try harder, smile bigger, or stay busy enough not to feel the emptiness. And so we perform. We pretend. We scroll past our own discomfort, numbing it with distraction. But pretending to be happy isn't the same as being at peace. When we manufacture happiness to match the world's expectations, we lose touch with our own. We ignore the quiet voice inside, the one that says, I'm tired, or I'm not okay, or I don't really want this. That voice matters because it's trying to bring us home to something truer, something less polished but more honest. There's no perfect version of life that finally unlocks happiness forever. No single moment where everything falls into place and stays that way. And that's okay, because maybe happiness isn't a constant state to maintain, but a fleeting guest that visits when we make space for it. So tonight, as your thoughts begin to slow and your breath softens, ask yourself gently, what if happiness wasn't something to chase, but something to feel? What if it comes not when everything's right, but when you stop trying so hard to fix what was never broken? Let go of the pressure. Let go of the performance. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are here, breathing, being. And sometimes that is more than enough. Rest now, outside the trap. You've earned that peace. Why humans crave comfort over truth. Why humans crave comfort over truth is one of those quiet patterns woven into so much of our behavior, and yet we rarely see it clearly. The truth, by its nature, can be sharp. It asks us to change, to question, to let go of the things we thought we knew. But comfort is soft. It wraps around us like a blanket, whispers to us that everything's okay, even when it might not be. And when we're tired or overwhelmed, we reach for it, almost without thinking. From the earliest moments of life, comfort meant safety, a warm embrace, a familiar voice, a rhythm to our days. And even as we grow, that deep longing for emotional ease doesn't leave. It stays, tucked beneath the surface, guiding us more than we realize. We crave stories that soothe, beliefs that stabilize, explanations that make the world feel less chaotic. Truth, on the other hand, often brings discomfort. Sometimes it unsettles us. It tells us that the world is more complex than we'd like to believe, that people we trust might be wrong, that we might be wrong. And that's a heavy feeling, especially when our lives are already full of uncertainty. So instead, we protect ourselves. We avoid what feels unfamiliar or threatening. We hold tightly to what reassures us, even if it's incomplete or untrue. This doesn't mean we're weak. It just means we're human. The brain is wired to reduce fear and pain, to conserve energy, to favor what feels good now rather than what might help later. That's why we sometimes scroll through comforting distractions rather than face a hard truth, or why we nod along with opinions that match ours, even when a quiet voice inside says something feels off. But here's something gentle to remember. Seeking comfort isn't wrong, and neither is seeking truth. The beauty comes when we slowly learn to hold both. When we begin to understand that the most lasting kind of comfort often comes not from hiding the truth, but from making peace with it, from sitting with it, even when it's difficult, from realizing that truth doesn't always hurt. It can heal too. It can guide. It can free. So as you rest tonight, notice the parts of yourself that reach for comfort, the parts that want safety and softness, and also notice the quiet curiosity within you, the one that still wonders, still questions. You don't have to choose one over the other. You're allowed to be soft and brave, comfortable and curious, held and honest. Let that balance settle into your chest as you breathe, and allow your thoughts to drift gently. You are safe here, safe enough to rest, and safe enough to wonder. The dark side of empathy. The dark side of empathy. It's not something we talk about often. We grow up learning that empathy is beautiful, that it's the heart of kindness, the root of compassion, and it is. The ability to feel what another person feels, to truly step into their world, is one of the most powerful traits we carry as human beings. But like all powerful things, empathy has edges, sometimes soft, sometimes sharp. Imagine for a moment holding someone else's pain inside your own body, not just imagining it, but absorbing it, carrying it, feeling it echo through your chest as if it were your own. That's the gift of deep empathy, but it's also the weight. Because when we open ourselves too fully to another's suffering, we can lose our own sense of balance. Their grief becomes our grief. Their anxiety becomes our unrest. And suddenly, we are not just witnessing pain, we are drowning in it. You may have felt this before, after a phone call with someone hurting, or watching someone you love fall apart, knowing you'd do anything to take it away. But no matter how hard you try, you can't fix it. And that helplessness, that deep, aching helplessness, can leave a mark. It can make you feel guilty for not doing more, or shame for needing to step back. But needing space doesn't make you cold. It makes you human. Empathy can also become selective. We tend to feel more for those who look like us, think like us, live like us. This isn't always conscious, but it shapes the way we respond to the world, who we defend, who we forgive, who we turn away from. When empathy becomes tribal, it creates invisible walls. It can fuel conflict. It can make us blind to the suffering of those we see as other. And then there's the burnout, the emotional exhaustion that creeps in when we give and give and give without pause. Especially for those who care deeply, the world can start to feel too heavy, too loud, and in trying to carry everyone else's pain, we forget to soothe our own. But awareness is the beginning of balance. When we understand empathy's power, we can hold it more gently. We can learn to listen without absorbing, to care without collapsing, to feel without falling apart. That's not coldness, it's wisdom, a quiet strength. So as you lie here tonight, breathe into that thought. Let it settle. It's okay to care deeply, and it's okay to protect your peace. The world doesn't need you to feel everything. It needs you to stay whole. Empathy is a light, but like all lights, it needs fuel. You are that fuel. Rest now. Refill. You're allowed to. How trauma shapes identity. How trauma shapes identity is something we often don't speak about. Not really, but it lingers quietly in the background of who we are. Like a shadow stitched to the edges of memory, it stays with us, even when we try to move on. You may not always see it clearly, but it's there, in the way you carry yourself, the way you respond, the way you love, and the way you protect yourself. When something painful happens, especially when we're young, it doesn't just pass through us like a breeze. It settles. It roots itself in the soft soil of our forming minds. And in trying to survive the hurt, we adapt. We adjust our behavior and our beliefs, sometimes even our entire personality, not because we wanted to, but because we had to. Maybe you learned to be quiet so no one would get angry. Maybe you became the helper, always taking care of others so you'd feel needed. Maybe you built walls so thick around your emotions that even you couldn't reach them. These were acts of survival, small, invisible negotiations between pain and protection. And over time, they became habits, then traits, then identity. What's important to understand is trauma doesn't just leave wounds, it leaves imprints, patterns, and many of those patterns follow us into adulthood long after the danger has passed. You may find yourself avoiding things without knowing why. You may struggle with trust, with closeness, with believing you're enough, and it can be confusing because the past feels far away, but the effects are now. But here's something gentle to hold on to. Those responses were signs of strength, proof that a younger version of you did whatever they could to stay safe, to stay whole. They weren't flaws, they were armor. And now, even if the armor is no longer needed, it's still there, still guarding, still shaping how you move through the world. As you rest tonight, it's okay to let some of that weight down. You don't have to figure it all out. Just know that identity isn't fixed. It's not a prison. It's a river, molded by what it's passed through, but always moving, always capable of change. And healing doesn't mean erasing the past. It means gently choosing what parts of it you want to carry forward. The psychology of loneliness. Loneliness, it's a quiet ache, isn't it? Not always loud, not always visible. Sometimes it's just a soft emptiness, a sense that something is missing, even when everything seems fine on the outside. It can visit in the middle of a crowded room, or settle in when the lights go out and the world grows still. And the strange thing is, loneliness doesn't always mean being alone. It's deeper than that. It's the feeling of not being seen, not being understood, like you're speaking in a language no one else quite hears. From the beginning, we are wired for connection. It's part of what makes us human, the need to be close, to belong, to matter to someone. Even as tiny babies, we search for eyes to meet ours, hands to hold us, voices that soothe. Our nervous systems learn safety through others. Our minds build a sense of self through the mirror of relationships. And yet, somewhere along the way, many of us drift into disconnection, not by choice, often by quiet circumstances, a move, a loss, a falling out, or maybe just a slow erosion of closeness that happens when life gets busy, when words go unspoken, when hearts stay guarded. Loneliness tells you a story, a quiet, persistent one. It whispers that you're different, that you don't quite fit, that no one would really understand if you shared what you carry inside. And when that story repeats enough times, it becomes a belief, a wall, something that keeps others out and keeps you in. But here's something soft to hold on to tonight. Feeling lonely doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. Your longing for connection is not a weakness. It's a sign that your heart still hopes, that somewhere within you, there's still a flicker of belief that being truly known is possible. And maybe you don't have to force anything right now. You don't have to rush to fix the loneliness. Just acknowledge it, like sitting beside a friend in silence. Let it be there without shame, because the first step toward connection is not reaching out. It's looking inward and saying, "This matters. This feeling is real." As you lie back and breathe gently, remember, even in your most isolated moments, you are not the only one to feel this way. Across time and distance, others have felt it too. The ache, the yearning, the quiet hope. And in that shared experience, there is something quietly powerful, a reminder that we're never as alone as we think we are. So let the loneliness soften tonight. Let it be part of your story, not the whole of it. And as sleep begins to take your thoughts, let this truth linger. Connection is possible, even after long silences. And you are worthy of being seen, truly seen. The subconscious drives most of your life. The subconscious drives most of your life. And yet, it's a place you rarely visit on purpose. It sits quietly beneath your awareness, like the deep ocean beneath a calm surface. And while you go about your day, thinking, choosing, reacting, it's the subconscious that whispers the direction, long before your conscious mind catches up. You might think you're fully in control, that each decision, each emotion, each word you speak comes from a place of deliberate thought. But in truth, much of what you do has already been set in motion by something deeper, a memory, a fear, a lesson learned long ago. These quiet forces don't shout. They guide you gently, like a current pulling beneath the waves. Take habits, for example. You don't need to think about how to brush your teeth or which hand reaches for the doorknob. These things live in the subconscious, stored away, so you don't have to waste energy deciding every little move. But it's not just routines. It's the way you respond when someone raises their voice, or the way you hesitate before speaking up. It's how your body tenses in certain places, around certain people, without any clear reason why. That's the subconscious, too. Holding on to experiences you may have forgotten, but your nervous system hasn't. Childhood moments, early relationships, times when you learned how to protect yourself, how to be loved, how to stay safe. These patterns become part of you. They shape the way you love, trust, or avoid pain, often without you realizing they're still there, quietly steering the wheel. It's not a flaw. It's how we're built, to survive, to adapt, to keep going, even when we don't understand why we feel what we feel. And the beauty is, once you start to see these hidden patterns, they begin to loosen. You notice the reaction before it takes over. You question a fear that once felt automatic. And in those small moments of awareness, that's where change begins. Not by fighting the subconscious, but by getting curious, by meeting it with softness, not shame. Because everything stored there came from somewhere real, somewhere meaningful. And just because it was unconscious doesn't mean it was unimportant. So now, as your body rests and your mind begins to drift, imagine the part of you beneath the surface, quiet, vast, mysterious. Not something to fear, but something to listen to. Let it speak gently, in symbols and feelings, in images and dreams. Let it untangle at its own pace, because within that deep place, there's wisdom and healing, and perhaps a truer version of you, waiting to be seen. Sleep now, knowing that even while you rest, your subconscious is still tending to you, still guiding, still unfolding, quietly, always. The fear of being forgotten. The fear of being forgotten. It's something many people carry quietly. It hides beneath everyday actions. A post shared online, a name carved into a tree, a photo framed on the wall. All little ways we tried to leave something behind, to remind the world that we were here, that we mattered. This fear doesn't come from weakness. It comes from something deeply human, the longing for connection. We want our lives to ripple outward, to be remembered, not just as a face in a crowd, but as a presence, a feeling, a story that lingers in someone's mind, even after we've walked away. You might have noticed how some memories fade, even ones that once felt important. The details blur, the voices grow quiet, and maybe that's where the fear creeps in, the realization that time moves on, with or without us, that the world keeps spinning, even when we wish it would pause, just long enough for someone to hold on to who we are. But here's something gentle to hold on to tonight. Being remembered isn't always about grand legacies or history books. Sometimes it's as simple as the way you made someone feel. A kind word, a shared laugh, a moment of understanding that softened someone's day. These are the memories that linger, not always spoken out loud, but quietly kept in the hearts of others. The truth is, no one is remembered forever, not in the way we imagine. Names are forgotten, faces fade, but impact, real, emotional impact, echoes in subtle, beautiful ways, in the way someone hugs a little tighter because you once made them feel safe, in the way they show up for someone else because you once showed up for them. That's where the real memory lives, not in monuments, but in motion. It's okay to want to be remembered. It means you love. It means you care. But maybe, instead of trying to be unforgettable, you can focus on being fully present, fully you, trusting that in simply living with sincerity, your presence leaves a quiet imprint, like footprints on soft sand. They might fade, but for a while, they shape the path. So as you close your eyes and drift into stillness, let go of the need to be held in every memory. Instead, rest in the peace that you are already part of many lives. That who you are matters now, not just in memory, but in every quiet moment you've shared, in every feeling you've left behind. You don't need to be remembered by the world to have meant the world to someone, and that, perhaps, is more than enough. You don't know yourself as well as you think. You don't know yourself as well as you think. That may sound unsettling at first, but stay with me. Let's just sit with that thought for a while, like a soft breeze brushing against your awareness. Most of us walk through life with a quiet certainty that we know who we are, our preferences, our values, the reasons we do what we do. We say things like, "That's just the way I am," or "I know myself." But beneath the surface, things are more complex. The mind is a layered place, and much of what drives us happens quietly, in rooms we rarely enter. Have you ever surprised yourself? Done something you didn't expect? Felt something you couldn't explain? Maybe you reacted strongly in a moment that didn't call for it, or drifted toward a decision that made no logical sense. These aren't accidents. They're glimpses, little moments where the deeper parts of you rise to the surface, parts shaped by your past, your wounds, your longings, and even parts shaped by things you've forgotten. The truth is, much of what you believe about yourself is a story your mind has built over time to feel consistent, safe, and familiar. But stories aren't always facts. They're interpretations, and sometimes they're defenses. We convince ourselves that we're one thing, so we don't have to face another. We hold on to certain truths because they protect us, even if they're not the whole picture. There are parts of you still unknown, desires you haven't named, fears you haven't faced, patterns that repeat without explanation. And yet, that's not something to fear. It's something to embrace, because just as you don't fully know yourself, it means you haven't reached your limits either. You are still growing, still discovering, still unfolding. You're not trapped in who you've been. You're free to become. And in those quiet moments, like this one, you can begin to notice, to listen, not to the loud voice that says, "I've got it all figured out," but to the softer voice that wonders, "Who am I really?" That voice doesn't need to rush to an answer. It just needs space. So as your body begins to drift and the edges of your thoughts start to blur, know this: the unknown parts of you aren't enemies. They are invitations. And in time, gently, patiently, they reveal themselves. You are not a finished puzzle. You are a living mystery. And every night, when the world grows quiet, you have the chance to get just a little closer to who you truly are. Let that thought carry you gently into rest. The pain of being average. The pain of being average. It's a feeling that many of us experience quietly, without ever naming it. It's not something that shouts or demands attention. It lingers in the background, like a soft shadow that stretches across our lives, quietly nudging us when we least expect it. The truth is, most of us have felt it, at least at some point. That quiet ache of feeling ordinary, of standing in the middle, not too far ahead, but not behind either. And it's easy to wonder, is this all there is? You see, we live in a world that loves extremes. We celebrate the brilliant and the exceptional. We look up to the stars, the ones who shine so brightly, whose names are known, whose achievements are impossible to ignore. But for most of us, life doesn't unfold in such grand strokes. It's in the middle that we spend the majority of our time, working, living, dreaming. And there's a certain loneliness in that space, isn't there? It feels like you're neither here nor there, just floating, waiting for something extraordinary to happen. And yet, there's a delicate beauty in this quiet middle place. It's in the simplicity of being just who you are, without needing to measure yourself against others. The pain of being average comes from comparison. It's when we look at what we lack, what we haven't yet accomplished, and judge ourselves for it. But perhaps this moment, this time in the middle, is just as important. It's where the growth happens. It's where you're allowed to breathe, to learn, to make mistakes without the weight of perfection. The truth is, you may never be the loudest or the most celebrated, but you don't need to be. Being average means you are human, and humans are complex, beautiful creatures. Every life is filled with its own quiet victories and moments of meaning that aren't always visible to the outside world. These moments matter just as much as any grand achievement. And as you rest, let go of the weight of comparison. Let go of the need to be extraordinary in someone else's eyes. The truth is, you don't need to prove anything. Your value doesn't come from being the best at something. It comes from being yourself. And sometimes, in the stillness of the night, when the world around you quiets, you begin to feel the truth settle deep inside of you. The pain of being average is not a pain to fear. It's a part of your story, but it is not the whole story. Rest now, knowing that you are more than enough, exactly as you are. And in the morning, when you wake, you'll carry with you the peaceful realization that even in the middle, there is beauty. Why rejection hurts more than it should. It's strange, isn't it? How a simple word, a look, or the absence of a reply can make our chest tighten, our thoughts race, our confidence falter. Even when we tell ourselves it's not a big deal, it still stings, sometimes deeply. And long after the moment has passed, we replay it, question it, wonder what we could have done differently. That pain you feel isn't weakness. It's something older, something wired into you. Because once, long ago, rejection wasn't just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. As humans, we've always needed connection to survive. In early tribes, being cast out didn't just mean loneliness. It meant losing safety, protection, even your life. So, our brains evolved to treat rejection like a threat, real and urgent. Even today, in a world where you can live alone in an apartment, order food without speaking to anyone, and be surrounded by people online, your mind still holds on to that ancient fear. It still hears no as you don't belong, and you don't belong as you're not safe. That's why even a small rejection, a friend forgetting to reply, a job not calling back, a loved one pulling away, can trigger something far bigger inside. Not just sadness, but shame. Not just disappointment, but self-doubt. It opens a door to all the stories you've carried. Stories that whisper, you're not enough. But here's the quiet truth. Rejection doesn't define you. It reflects a moment, a mismatch, a misunderstanding, but never your worth. We often confuse someone's reaction with our identity, but they are not the same. Their choice, their timing, their perspective, that's their world. You're just passing through it. And sometimes people don't see clearly when you show up. What hurts the most isn't just the rejection. It's what we attach to it. The belief that it confirms our worst fears, that we're unlovable, invisible, wrong. But those thoughts, they're shadows, not facts. And shadows lose power in the light. So maybe tonight you let go. Let go of the moments that hurt. Let go of the voices that said you're not enough. Sink into the comfort that your value doesn't flicker when someone else looks away. It stays, quietly glowing. And in that stillness, you can start to believe something softer, that rejection isn't the end of your story. It's just a redirection, a pause, a space being made for something more aligned with who you truly are. So rest now. The world may not always recognize your light, but it's there, and it's real. Let it warm you as you drift into sleep. The false self you built to survive. The false self you built to survive wasn't born out of vanity or pretense. It was born out of necessity, out of a need to feel safe, to belong, to be loved. It began quietly, maybe even before you had words for what you were feeling. You noticed what brought praise and what brought disapproval. You noticed which parts of yourself felt welcome and which parts didn't. And slowly, without even realizing it, you started to shape yourself to fit. You learned to wear masks that helped you navigate the world. Maybe it was the mask of the high achiever, or the people pleaser, the quiet one, the tough one, the one who never needs help. These masks worked. They protected you, helped you cope, helped you find connection in places where being your full self might have felt too risky. But over time, the mask can become heavy. When we wear it long enough, we forget we're wearing it at all. We begin to believe it's who we are, that we are only lovable when we're performing, achieving, pleasing, surviving. The false self becomes a habit, a script we follow without thinking, and underneath it, the real self waits, gently, patiently. The real self is softer, less polished, but more whole. It's the part of you that feels without needing to hide, the part that longs without shame, that cries and laughs and rests without explanation. The false self is loud. It seeks approval. It's always scanning, always proving, but the real self just is. And maybe you felt it before, in quiet moments when the world fades and you're just there with your thoughts. That soft voice inside that says, I miss me. It's not weakness, it's memory. A call back to yourself, a part of you that knows you were never meant to be a performance. You were meant to be whole. Unlearning the false self isn't a task to complete. It's more like a slow unfolding, a gentle remembering. You don't have to rip off the mask all at once. You just start by noticing, by breathing, by giving yourself permission to exist outside of who you thought you needed to be. And as you rest now, let that false self loosen just a little. Let the pressure soften. Let the performance end. You've done enough. You are enough. And the self underneath it all, the one that was never broken, never wrong, never too much or not enough, that self is still here, waiting to be seen, waiting to be welcomed back. And in this quiet moment, maybe that's already beginning. We lie to ourselves every day, not out of malice or cruelty, but because deep down, our minds are trying to protect us, sometimes from pain, sometimes from fear, and sometimes from truths we don't yet feel ready to face. It begins so subtly. You might tell yourself you're fine, even when something inside feels heavy. You might say you don't care when your heart is still aching, or pretend you've moved on, while a part of you still lingers in the past. These small, quiet lies slip into the spaces between your thoughts. They build walls around wounds. They shape masks that smile when you're hurting. And with time, they start to feel like truth, but they aren't. You see, the mind is a master of self-preservation. It edits, reframes, distracts, not to deceive you in some cruel way, but to help you keep going, to soften the sharp edges of regret, to cover the cracks of uncertainty. It's like a friend whispering, "Don't look there. It might hurt." And so we look away. We lie about who we are, too, about what we want, what we fear. We create stories that make us feel safe, even when they keep us small. We tell ourselves we're not good enough, or not ready, or that certain dreams aren't meant for us. And sometimes we believe those lies so completely, we stop questioning them at all. But the truth is quieter than the lies. It doesn't shout. It waits. It speaks in the stillness, when the world slows down. Like now, it comes through in moments when you least expect it. A conversation that stirs something deep. A memory that surfaces without warning. A tear you didn't see coming. And in those moments, there's a gentle kind of honesty. Not the kind that wounds, but the kind that frees. The kind that says, yes, this is real, and it's okay to feel it. You don't have to be afraid of the truths you've buried. They are part of you. And facing them doesn't mean losing control. It means stepping into your life more fully, gently, bravely, slowly. So as you lie here now, let the walls loosen, let the masks slip. You're safe, safe enough to stop pretending, safe enough to rest in the knowledge that even the parts you hide deserve light. We lie to ourselves every day, but in the quiet, in the softness of this moment, maybe tonight you don't have to. Maybe tonight you can just be. Childhood programming. You still carry childhood programming. You still carry. It lingers like a quiet shadow that moves beside you, often unnoticed. But it's there, shaping the way you see the world, the way you speak to yourself, and the way you react to others, especially when you're tired, vulnerable, or alone. When we're children, we absorb everything. Not just the words spoken to us, but the tone, the glances, the silences. We learn what gets us love. We learn what triggers disapproval. And slowly, without realizing it, we begin writing scripts. Scripts about who we are, what we're worth, and how safe the world is. Most of it is unspoken. Most of it stays buried. Maybe you were taught to be quiet to avoid conflict, or to smile even when something hurt. Maybe you learned that achievement equals love, or that your feelings were too much for others. These lessons weren't always meant to harm you. Often, they were passed down by people doing the best they could, but the impact still lives inside you. And now, as an adult, you might wonder why certain situations trigger such deep emotions, why compliments feel uncomfortable, why rejection cuts so deeply, or why you sometimes feel like you're pretending, even in your own life. The answer, more often than not, lives in that early wiring. These programs run silently in the background. They shape your habits, your relationships, your choices. You might think you're choosing freely, but often you're following a path that was carved long ago, when you were too young to know you had a choice. But here's something soft, something important. You're not stuck with that wiring forever. Awareness, gentle, compassionate awareness, begins to loosen it. Every time you pause and ask, is this really me? Or is this something I learned to survive? You create space. Space to respond differently. Space to rewrite. You don't need to fight the old programming. Just notice it. Sit with it. Understand where it came from. It was there to protect you once. It helped you adapt. It helped you make sense of a world too big and too fast. But you're not that small anymore. You're safe enough now to let go. So, as you drift tonight, allow this thought to settle. Not everything you believe about yourself is truly yours. Some of it was handed to you before you had the words to say no. And it's okay to put some of it down. You are not broken. You are unfolding. And with each breath, with each quiet realization, you are coming home to who you've always been. Beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the old scripts. Let that truth cradle you as you rest. The cost of constant comparison is something we rarely stop to feel, but it's there, quiet, heavy, and ever present. It follows us through the glow of a screen, through the scroll of faces, lives, and achievements that seem so much brighter than our own. In a world so connected, it's easier than ever to measure yourself against others, to look at someone else's highlight reel and wonder, why not me? You see their joy, their beauty, their success, and somewhere deep down, a part of you begins to shrink. You start believing you're behind, or not enough, or somehow incomplete. But what if I told you that what you're comparing yourself to isn't real? What you're seeing, those perfect images, those polished words, they're fragments, carefully chosen snapshots from someone else's story. You don't see their doubts, their sleepless nights, their silent battles. You're comparing your raw, unfiltered self to their curated version. And in doing so, you forget your own depth. Comparison whispers lies. It tells you that your pace is wrong, that your journey is less valuable, that someone else's path is the one you should be on. But life doesn't work that way. We're not meant to walk in straight lines or move in sync. You are a unique story, unfolding at exactly the pace it's meant to. Still, it's hard not to compare. It's almost instinctual. But the more we do it, the more disconnected we become from ourselves. You start chasing what isn't yours and slowly lose sight of what is: your values, your joy, your definition of enough. And the cost is your peace, your confidence, your ability to feel whole just as you are. Constant comparison doesn't push you forward. It pulls you away from the present moment, from gratitude, from rest. But tonight, maybe you can let that weight go, just a little. Maybe you can allow yourself to be exactly where you are, to stop running, stop measuring, stop reaching for someone else's finish line. There's no race, no scoreboard, just you and the quiet beauty of becoming. You don't have to be more. You don't have to catch up. You are not late. You are not lacking. You are here, breathing, growing. Enough. Let that truth settle into your chest like a warm light. Let it remind you that your worth isn't something to be proven. It's something to be remembered. And as your thoughts soften and your body begins to drift, know this: the only person you ever need to compare yourself to is the version of you who needed this reminder. And right now, that version can rest. The myth of control. The myth of control. It's something we all quietly hold on to. This soft, comforting belief that if we plan enough, prepare enough, think hard enough, we can shape the world exactly how we want it. That life will go our way if we just hold the reins tightly enough. And for a while, it might even seem true. We wake up, follow routines, check things off lists, and tell ourselves everything is under control. But deep down, there's a quiet tension, a small, persistent anxiety. Because even as we try to steer the wheel, life has a way of reminding us, again and again, that it doesn't always follow our plans. Control is soothing, like a warm blanket, but it's often an illusion, a fragile one. The truth is, much of life unfolds beyond us. The weather, the traffic, other people's choices, the way time passes, the way feelings rise and fade, all of it moves with or without our permission. And the more we fight that truth, the more drained we become. We think if we could just be better, more disciplined, more organized, more careful, then nothing would slip through the cracks. But cracks are a part of being human. They're where real life gets in. They're how we grow. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up. It means softening. It means releasing the tight grip and learning to trust. Not in certainty, but in your ability to respond, to adapt, to bend without breaking. There's a gentle power in that, a kind of quiet freedom that comes when we realize we were never supposed to control it all. And in that space, something beautiful happens. You start to breathe differently. You begin to listen more, to yourself, to others, to the present moment. You find peace not in the guarantee of a perfect plan, but in the flow of things just as they are. It's okay to hope, to dream, to prepare, but when the unexpected comes, and it always does, may you remember this: you were never failing. You were just living. So as your eyes grow heavy and the day fades behind you, let yourself rest in the truth that you don't have to hold everything together. You don't need all the answers. You only need presence, patience, and a little grace for yourself. Control is a story we tell to feel safe. But trust is the truth we grow into. Let that truth carry you gently into sleep. Let the weight go. Let it all be. Dopamine addiction and mental decay. Dopamine addiction and mental decay. It's a quiet shift, one you rarely notice happening until it has already shaped the way you think, feel, and move through your day. Dopamine is that little spark, that signal of pleasure and reward. It's the chemical that makes you feel a rush when someone likes your post, when you bite into something sweet, when you scroll, swipe, and scroll again. At first, it feels harmless. A small lift, a hit of yes, I like that. But the brain, it doesn't just feel, it learns. And the more you chase that feeling, the more your brain rewires itself around it. It starts to crave not meaning, not connection, but stimulation. Quick bursts, easy rewards, little highs over and over. And over time, the baseline shifts. What once brought joy now barely registers. Simple moments, like stillness or silence or waiting, begin to feel like discomfort. Boredom starts to sting. Slowness feels wrong because your brain, it's waiting for the next hit. And so we scroll and click and check again and again and again. But the cost is quiet. It sneaks in like fog. The mind begins to scatter. Attention feels fragile. Focus becomes effort. Deep thoughts, they feel distant, hard to hold on to. It's as if the mind is always somewhere else, half here, half reaching for the next reward. This is the decay. Not loud, not sudden, but slow, like erosion. A gradual dulling of the deep parts of the mind, the parts that reflect, that imagine, that feel without distraction. But here's the thing. The brain is always listening, and it can learn new things too. Just like it learned to crave, it can learn to rest. It can relearn how to be still, how to sit with a thought, how to enjoy quiet without needing noise. And it begins right here, in this moment, as your body softens and the world around you begins to fade. You can feel it, a different kind of calm. Not excitement, not reward, but peace. You're not chasing anything now. There is no click to make, no scroll to continue. Just breath and stillness. And slowly, gently, the brain begins to remember. It remembers how to slow down, how to feel without the high, how to think without rushing. And in that remembering, there's healing. You're not broken. You're just overstimulated. And sleep, sweet, restful sleep, is your way back to balance. Let go now. Let your mind unhook from the noise. Let the waves of silence guide you deeper. You are safe. You are here. And your mind is finally at rest. Why some people never heal. Why some people never heal is a question that lingers quietly in the spaces we rarely look at. Healing seems like something that should come naturally with time, but for many, it doesn't. Wounds remain, not always visible, but felt deeply, like echoes in the chest, like memories that never quite fade. You see, healing isn't just about time passing. It's about what happens in that time, or what doesn't. Some people never heal because they were never shown how. Not as children, not as adults. They learned to bury pain, to keep moving, to wear masks. They were taught, silently, sometimes loudly, that feeling deeply was weakness, that being vulnerable was unsafe, so the pain stays, hidden behind survival. And survival can look like strength on the outside, a smile, a routine, a busy life. But underneath, the wound waits, because it was never truly seen. Sometimes people don't heal because they're still living in the conditions that hurt them. You can't close a wound that keeps getting reopened. Whether it's toxic relationships, a harsh inner critic, or a life that offers no space for rest or reflection, healing needs safety. It needs softness. It needs a kind of quiet that the world rarely offers. Other times, people can't let go of pain because pain became part of their identity. It gave them meaning, or protection, or a reason for why things are the way they are. To heal would mean letting go of that story. And letting go can feel like falling into nothingness. That fear keeps them holding on. And there are those who try, really try. But healing isn't a straight path. It's messy. There are relapses, moments where it feels like nothing's changed. And in those moments, some lose hope. They believe they're broken beyond repair, but they're not. They're just tired. And tired people don't need to be fixed. They need rest, gentle understanding, and space to begin again. You see, healing doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it never hurt. It means feeling fully and still choosing to move forward, even slowly. It means holding your own hand when no one else does. It means believing, deep down, that there's something on the other side of pain, something worth reaching for. So if you're lying there tonight, wondering why the ache is still there, know this: healing isn't a race, it isn't linear, and it certainly isn't proof of your worth. Some wounds take time, some need to be understood before they can be released, and some just need you to stop running from them. You are not weak for still hurting. You are human, and your journey, no matter how long it's been, is still yours to shape. Let this be a moment of softness, a breath, a beginning. Let it cradle you into rest, knowing that healing is possible, even now, even here. Toxic positivity, when good vibes hurt. Toxic positivity, when good vibes hurt. It sounds strange, doesn't it? That something as warm and comforting as positivity could ever be harmful. But sometimes, even light can blind you. You've likely heard it before. Phrases like, just stay positive, or everything happens for a reason. Words meant to soothe, to uplift. And sometimes they do, but not always. Because underneath the surface of constant optimism, there's a quiet truth we don't often talk about. Not all emotions are meant to be wrapped in smiles. There are moments in life when pain is real, when sadness, fear, or grief rise up, asking to be felt. And in those moments, positivity that skips past your pain can feel like being silenced, like your hurt is being covered up rather than cared for. It's as if someone is trying to paint over a cracked wall instead of fixing what's underneath. Toxic positivity isn't about being happy. It's about denying the parts of ourselves that aren't. It tells us to cheer up when what we really need is to cry, to be strong when we're actually breaking, to find silver linings when we're still standing in the storm. And over time, this message teaches us something dangerous, that difficult emotions are wrong, that if we're struggling, we must be failing, that happiness is a requirement, not a feeling. But emotions are not enemies, they're messengers. Grief tells you something mattered. Anger shows where a boundary was crossed. Sadness softens the soul, and fear teaches caution. Each one plays a role. When we suppress them, we don't become stronger. We just become quieter, disconnected, exhausted from pretending we're fine. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to sit with discomfort without rushing to fix it. Healing doesn't need a smile to be real. Growth doesn't need to look graceful. Sometimes, the most honest thing you can do is simply feel what you feel, fully, gently, without shame. So as you lie here tonight, if there's anything heavy on your heart, let it breathe. You don't have to push it away with forced gratitude or fake joy. You can hold space for it. Let it rest beside you, like an old friend who just needs to be seen. Because true peace doesn't come from pretending. It comes from presence, from allowing your full, imperfect humanity to exist without judgment. And in that quiet acceptance, you might just find something deeper than happiness. You might find truth, wholeness, and eventually a softer, more lasting kind of light. The psychology of regret is a quiet ache, one that lives in the spaces between our choices. It doesn't shout, it whispers. Often, when the world goes still and the distractions fade, it finds a way to rise, like an old song drifting through the mind. Regret is what happens when the life we have meets the life we imagine we could have had. It forms in those moments we replay over and over, when we wish we'd said something else, taken a different path, or held on a little longer, or let go a little sooner. It's the weight of what wasn't. But regret, though painful, is deeply human. It's not a flaw. It's a signal, a mirror held up to our values. We only regret what mattered to us. That job we didn't take, that person we hurt, that risk we didn't dare. Regret shows us what we care about, what we long for deep beneath the surface. You might think of regret as the enemy of peace, but in truth, it's more like a quiet companion, one that, if you let it speak gently, can guide you closer to your truest self. You see, regret can teach if we're not afraid to listen. It shows us where we've been misaligned with who we want to be. It humbles us, softens us, helps us grow, but it can also trap us when we cling to it, when we replay the past like a loop with no end. The mind tries to rewrite what can't be changed. It's like trying to smooth the surface of a river with your hands. It only ripples more. The truth is, the past is done, but your relationship to it, that is still unfolding. You can't go back, but you can go forward differently. You can let regret inform your path, not define it. You can forgive the version of you who didn't know better, who did the best they could with the tools they had and the heart they carried at the time. So if regret still lingers in you tonight, don't push it away. Let it rest beside you. Let it tell its story. And then, gently thank it and let it go, because tomorrow is still unwritten, and every regret you've known holds the wisdom to shape what comes next. Let that truth settle deep within you. Breathe softly. You're not your past. You are the person who lived through it, and the one who's still becoming. Let the weight of regret melt into the stillness of this night, and let yourself drift into peace. You're not the hero of your story. You're not the hero of your story. It's a strange thing to hear, isn't it? A quiet challenge to the way we often see ourselves. But let's take a moment together and breathe into that thought. Let it settle gently, like the soft rhythm of your breathing, before rushing to conclusions. You've probably heard it 1,000 times, whether through books, movies, or the quiet whispers of society. The idea that you are the hero, that life is a grand adventure, and you are meant to overcome every challenge, fight the villains, and emerge victorious. This narrative is so deeply woven into our culture, into our dreams, that we rarely stop to question it. But here's the truth. Life doesn't revolve around you the way a story does. The world doesn't pause for your dramatic entrance, nor does it wait for you to solve every puzzle. You are part of something far bigger than just your personal journey. Now, that doesn't mean you aren't important. It doesn't mean that your life doesn't matter. But what it does mean is that the world you live in is full of stories, not just yours. Every person you encounter has their own dreams, their own struggles, their own heroes and villains. And while you might be the center of your own narrative, the world itself doesn't revolve around you. It's a quiet realization, but one that can bring peace. There's a certain freedom in letting go of the need to be the hero. Because in truth, heroes are often burdened by expectations. They are tasked with saving, leading, fixing. But when you stop thinking of yourself as the hero, you open up space for something more gentle, something softer. You become a part of the unfolding of life, not its sole architect. You are a character, yes, but not the only one. And in that, you can relax. You can breathe without the weight of constant heroism pressing down on you. Life doesn't ask you to fight every battle alone or to conquer every fear. It simply asks you to be present, to witness, and to live alongside others. There's beauty in that. The pressure of being the hero lifts, and in its place, you can simply be. You might still dream of making a difference, of leaving a mark on the world, and that's a lovely thing to strive for. But remember that you are part of a collective, a shared experience where every person plays a role. Sometimes the greatest heroism is in the quiet acts, the ones that don't demand a spotlight. So, as you settle into the calm of this moment, know that you are not burdened with the weight of being the hero. You are enough, just as you are. You are a companion in this world, walking beside others who are also finding their way. You're not alone, and in that, there is peace. Let go of the need to be the hero. Allow yourself to drift, knowing that you are part of something beautiful, something beyond the limits of your own story. The hidden fear of success. There's a fear many people carry, though they don't always recognize it for what it is. It's not the fear of failing. That's easier to understand, more familiar. No, this fear is hidden beneath the surface, quietly shaping the way we live. It's the fear of success. It might seem strange to think that we could fear something as beautiful as success. After all, success is often what we dream of, what we strive for. But the truth is, success comes with change, with responsibility, with new expectations. And sometimes it's that very change that makes us nervous, even when we long for it. When you think about success, what do you see? Do you picture your dreams coming true, your hard work paying off, everything falling into place? Or perhaps does a small voice inside whisper doubts, telling you that success might change you in ways you're not ready for, that maybe it will bring pressure, loneliness, or loss of something familiar? The fear of success is often tied to a deep sense of uncertainty. It's not just about reaching a goal, but about what happens next. Success doesn't just elevate you, it elevates expectations. It pulls others' attention to you, and with that attention comes scrutiny. Suddenly, you're no longer the person you were before, and in that shift, the world feels different. It feels more intense, more uncertain. You might find yourself wondering, am I ready for this? And then there's the fear of losing the comfort of being just okay. Success means growth, and growth means leaving behind the safety of the familiar. It might seem easier to stay small, to remain hidden in the shadows of your own potential. It's safer there, where you don't have to worry about living up to anyone's expectations or your own. When you stay in a place where you haven't reached your full potential, it's a bit like standing at the edge of a cliff, unsure of whether to step forward or pull back. But success, in its truest sense, is not about perfection. It's about embracing the change that comes with it, knowing that success isn't a final destination, but a process, a flow of moments where you rise to meet new challenges, new joys, and new opportunities. You see, success doesn't define who you are. It reveals who you are. It brings out parts of you that you might not have known existed, showing you strengths, resilience, and creativity you hadn't realized were there. As you let go of the day, imagine what it would feel like to step into success with ease, to trust that you are ready. The world is full of unexpected paths, but every step forward, even the smallest one, is a victory. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need to have all the answers. Success is not a burden. It's a gift, one that invites you to grow, to discover, to unfold into a version of yourself that you've always been meant to be. So as you rest now, let go of the hidden fear of success. Let yourself drift into the peaceful acceptance that you are capable. You are worthy of all the good things life has to offer. Human beings are wired for tribalism. Human beings are wired for tribalism. It's a deep, ancient part of us, woven into the fabric of our being, like a thread that runs through generations. It's not something you chose, not something you've consciously decided to feel. It's simply there, in the way we seek connection, in the way we group ourselves together. At the core of it, there's a desire to belong, to be seen, to share our stories with others who understand us. Imagine the earliest humans sitting around a fire, gathering in small groups. They relied on one another for survival, for protection, for companionship. Their world was one of tribes, where identity and safety were defined by the group. The bonds were strong, and the group's survival often depended on how well they worked together. This instinct for belonging, for being part of something larger than ourselves, was critical. Fast forward to today, and while our world has changed in many ways, that primal urge hasn't disappeared. We still form groups, whether they're families, communities, or even online circles. We still look for validation, acceptance, and understanding from those we consider our people. And in many ways, this drive shapes much of our decisions and interactions. You might not always realize it, but each time you align yourself with a group, you are responding to this deeply embedded part of who you are. It could be a favorite sports team, a political party, a religion, or even just the people you choose to call friends. When you identify with a tribe, there's a sense of comfort, a sense of safety. You know you're not alone. You're surrounded by others who share your views, your values, your dreams. And that feels good, doesn't it? To belong, to be understood, to be part of something that gives you meaning. But tribalism isn't always a gentle thing. It can also create boundaries. It can turn us against them. Sometimes, in our quest to define who we are by the groups we belong to, we forget that others, too, are seeking their own sense of belonging, and the differences between us and them can feel vast. This is where the darker side of tribalism can emerge, where differences breed division, where conflict takes root. As you settle into the rhythm of your breath, take a moment to reflect on your own groups, the tribes you belong to. Maybe there are some that have shaped your identity in ways you don't always notice. Maybe some of them bring you peace, while others bring tension. The beauty of recognizing this human instinct is that it gives you space to explore it more deeply, to see the connections that unite and to notice the differences that divide with gentleness. Tribalism isn't inherently bad. It's simply a part of being human, a force that connects us to others, that ties us to the past, and that helps define who we are. But it's important to remember, as you drift further into rest, that while these groups can provide comfort and strength, they don't define the entirety of who you are. You are more than the groups you belong to. You are a world of your own. And as you let go of today's thoughts, you can rest in the knowing that no matter what groups you're part of, you are still deeply and uniquely you, a beautiful, complex individual, held always in the embrace of something bigger than yourself. Why freedom scares people. Freedom is something we all long for, the ability to choose, to go where we want, to live how we wish. It sounds so peaceful, doesn't it? But here's the strange truth. For many people, freedom can be frightening. It's not always the relief we expect it to be. In fact, the more freedom we have, the more unsettling it can feel. Imagine standing at the edge of a wide, open field. You can walk in any direction, go anywhere. It should feel liberating, right? But as you stand there, a strange tension builds. Where do you go? What path should you take? Suddenly, the endless possibilities begin to feel overwhelming, like too many choices are spinning around you, and you can't settle on just one. That's one of the reasons why freedom scares us. The weight of choices, the pressure to make the right decision, can leave us paralyzed. It's not about a lack of desire for freedom. It's that, deep down, we fear the responsibility it brings. When we have too many options, the possibility of making a mistake looms large. What if the wrong choice leads us somewhere we can't return from? What if it's a path we can't undo? In these moments, the comfort of constraints, of knowing what's expected of us, can feel safer than the vast unknown. When there's freedom, there's also uncertainty. No longer can we rely on the clear guidelines and rules that once told us what to do and where to go. And in that uncertainty, we might feel lost, unsure of who we really are or where we truly belong. Boundaries give us something to hold on to, a sense of structure in an otherwise chaotic world. Without them, we can feel exposed, vulnerable. The very thing we thought we wanted, the freedom to be ourselves, becomes a space that feels too big, too empty. It makes us question if we are enough, if we'll know how to fill that space. But it's not just the choices that scare us. It's also the fear of judgment. When we are free to make our own decisions, we're also free to be judged for them. Others might look at us and wonder why we chose one path over another. And so, the weight of judgment can hold us back, even from things we deeply desire. Freedom, in this way, becomes a double-edged sword, something that both liberates and isolates. So as you lie here, feeling the quiet pull of rest, consider this. The fear of freedom isn't something to fight against. It's simply a part of being human. It's okay to feel uncertain about the choices ahead. It's okay to be afraid of what might happen when you embrace the unknown. But remember, freedom, in all its forms, is also where growth lives. It's in those uncertain moments that you learn who you truly are. It's in the vastness of possibility that your real potential can unfold, even if it feels a little scary at first. Let that thought settle in as you close your eyes and rest. Freedom may be unsettling, but it's also a space for you to explore, to discover, and to grow. You don't have to know everything tonight. Just let yourself breathe deeply and trust that the journey ahead will reveal itself. one step at a time. The spotlight effect ruins confidence. The spotlight effect, it's a quiet, invisible weight we carry. It's the feeling that everyone is watching, judging, noticing every little detail about us. It's the belief that all eyes are on us, even when we're standing alone in a room, lost in our thoughts. But the truth is, it's not real. The spotlight you feel is nothing more than a shadow of your own mind, casting its glow on parts of you that others don't even notice. Imagine for a moment walking into a room. You're nervous, self-conscious. Your clothes, your posture, your smile. It all feels off somehow. You might feel like everyone can see the tiny flaws that you're so aware of. You might wonder if your nervousness is as obvious to others as it feels to you. But here's the thing. Most people are so wrapped up in their own lives, their own thoughts, their own insecurities, that they rarely notice the little things you fear they do. They're not scrutinizing your every move. They're not evaluating your every word. You're not the center of their universe the way you are in your own mind. This is the spotlight effect, a psychological illusion that convinces us we are always being observed. It stems from the natural tendency we all have to focus on ourselves, on our thoughts, our feelings, our actions. And in doing so, we inflate the importance of our own presence in the world. We forget that, just like us, everyone else is also caught in their own internal narrative. Everyone else is walking around with their own worries, their own fears, their own spotlight. When you carry this invisible spotlight with you, it's easy to feel anxious, to feel that your confidence is fragile, like it could break with the smallest misstep. You might avoid eye contact, shrink back from conversation, or hold yourself in a way that feels less vulnerable, less visible. But the truth is, all that anxiety is based on a perception that isn't real. No one is holding a magnifying glass to your every move. And here's the gentle gift this understanding can bring. The moment you begin to loosen your grip on the spotlight effect, you free yourself. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to perform. You can simply be. You can relax into the knowledge that even though you feel observed, you are not defined by those fleeting moments of attention. Imagine that weight lifting off your shoulders, just a little. That pressure to be flawless, to be perfect, begins to fade. You can let go of the fear of judgment because you now know that most of the time, no one is watching you nearly as closely as you fear. People are absorbed in their own lives, just like you are in yours. And as you drift deeper into rest, let this truth soothe you. You are free to be yourself, perfectly imperfect, in the quiet peace of a world that is not as focused on you as you once believed. Let the comfort of that thought settle deeply within you, guiding you softly into sleep. How society manufactures your desires. How society manufactures your desires. It's a thought that lingers in the quiet spaces of your mind, especially when you allow yourself to pause and reflect. You might not notice it in the rush of your everyday life, but there's a subtle force at work, shaping the way you long for things. It's like a soft undercurrent, unseen, but constantly guiding you. Take a moment to think about the things you desire, the things you want, the things you think you need. Maybe it's the latest gadget, the perfect body, the career success, or the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. These desires feel so personal, don't they? They feel like they came from deep within you, as though you've chosen them for yourself. But if you look a little closer, you might begin to see something else, that these desires, so deeply felt and so hard to ignore, are not always born from your true self. They are planted, nurtured, and amplified by the world around you. From the moment we're born, we're surrounded by messages, spoken and unspoken, that tell us what we should want, what's desirable, what success looks like. Society, in all its many forms, is like a mirror reflecting back to us a version of ourselves that fits into the world it's created. The images we see on TV, the people we follow on social media, the advertisements we're bombarded with, they all hold up a version of life that seems just out of reach, and we start to crave it. We want to be like those we admire, to have what they have, to live as they do. It feels like a personal choice, but it's really an idea that's been carefully constructed for us. What if you could take a step back and pause for a moment? Imagine standing still in the middle of a busy street, watching the flow of people around you. Each person moving towards something. But are they choosing where they go? Or are they following a path that's been paved for them? The clothes they wear, the brands they buy, the dreams they chase, they're all part of a larger pattern. And that pattern was created long before they even knew it existed. The truth is, society shapes your desires in ways you don't even realize. It creates a world where your needs are constantly being defined for you. What's considered beautiful, successful, or valuable. These are not universal truths, but ideas passed down and reinforced through every moment of culture and media. And so you find yourself chasing things you didn't know you wanted, buying things you didn't know you needed, all while believing you're making these choices freely. But here's the calming thought. Once you see this, you can take a step back. You can begin to ask yourself, is this truly what I desire? Or have I been gently guided toward it by the world around me? And in that quiet space, you'll find room for true self-discovery. You'll begin to feel the difference between the desires that come from within and the ones that were crafted for you. As you let this thought settle into your mind, imagine releasing the weight of what you think you should want. Imagine letting it go gently, like a soft exhale. Feel the calmness that comes with simply being, without the need to chase or strive. You are free, not because you've obtained everything you thought you wanted, but because you've learned to rest in what is truly yours. And with that, as the quiet of the night wraps around you, let yourself drift into a peaceful sleep, knowing that tomorrow is another day to discover what you really want, without the noise of the world telling you what it should be. The paradox of choice. Imagine standing in front of a vast bookshelf. The shelves are packed with books, each one promising a new world, a new adventure, a new lesson. You feel a sense of excitement at first, eager to find the perfect one. But as your eyes scan the titles, something shifts. The more you look, the harder it becomes to choose. There are so many options, so many possibilities, and with each one, a tiny voice whispers, maybe there's a better one. This is the paradox of choice. At first, it seems like freedom. More options should make us happier, right? We believe that with more choices, we can find exactly what we want, perfectly tailored to our desires. But the truth is, the more options we have, the more overwhelmed we become. The very abundance that was supposed to bring us joy can lead to a sense of paralysis, leaving us unable to choose at all. It's not just about books. Think about a time you stood in front of a grocery store aisle, looking at dozens of cereal boxes. What should be a simple decision, just picking breakfast, turns into an overwhelming task. The options feel endless, and each choice brings with it the fear of making the wrong one. What if there's a better cereal, just a few aisles over, that you haven't seen yet? The pressure mounts, and with each passing second, the decision becomes heavier. This is the paradox. More choices don't make us happier. They make us anxious. The more we have to choose from, the more we begin to question if we've made the right decision. It's a constant cycle of what-ifs and doubts. What if I pick the wrong book? What if the other cereal is the one I'll love? And yet, despite all of this, we still crave choice. We still want control. We still think that more is better. It's a natural instinct. But when you stop and breathe for a moment, you might notice something. In the quiet spaces between your thoughts, there's a peace that comes from simplicity. When the noise of too many options fades, you start to realize that sometimes a single choice made with intention can bring a sense of calm, a sense of satisfaction that endless options can never offer. As you lie here, allowing your body to relax and your mind to settle, think about how much peace can come from embracing fewer choices. Imagine the relief of knowing that you don't have to search for the perfect option, just the option that feels right in this moment. There's no need to second guess, no need to search for something better, because what you choose is enough. The paradox of choice teaches us that freedom isn't always found in abundance. Sometimes it's in the simple, quiet act of deciding and then letting go. So as you drift into sleep, let that thought soften the edges of your mind. You don't have to have every option figured out. Sometimes the best choice is just the one that brings you peace in the here and now. Let yourself rest in that calm and let the night unfold naturally. You're one habit away from a different life. It's easy to think that change is a massive thing, something that requires a dramatic shift, a major decision. But in reality, life is shaped by the small, quiet things we do, day after day. The habits we hold, sometimes without even thinking, create the foundation for everything that comes next. The beauty of habits is that they are often so subtle, so ingrained in our daily routines, that we don't even notice them. We brush our teeth, we drink our coffee, we check our phone. It all becomes so automatic. And in the same way, the smallest change in your daily actions can create a ripple effect that transforms your world. Just one habit, practiced consistently, can shift the course of your life in ways you may not even realize at first. Think about it. What if you woke up tomorrow and started with something small, something simple? Maybe it's a quiet moment of gratitude. Maybe it's a few minutes of stretching, or a glass of water before your coffee. What if you did just one thing differently? It might seem insignificant, but in time, that small action could grow. That's the power of habits. They compound, they build, and they shape the person you are becoming. Every decision, no matter how small, is a step towards something new. It's not always easy, though. Sometimes we think of habits as all or nothing, as something we have to master perfectly or not at all. But that's not true. The most important thing is consistency, not perfection. The beauty lies in the process, in showing up, even if it's just for a few minutes each day. Even a small change repeated often, becomes part of who you are. And soon, you may look back and realize that the life you were yearning for was always just a habit away. Imagine for a moment that every new habit you form is a seed you're planting in your own life. At first, it's just a tiny, delicate thing, barely noticeable. But over time, with care and attention, that seed begins to grow. It becomes a part of you. It creates the change you were waiting for, without any big, overwhelming effort. The small things repeated build the structure of your future. As you lie here, ready to drift into sleep, know that your journey of transformation doesn't have to be daunting or grand. The change you seek can start with something so simple. Just one habit, practiced with patience and kindness toward yourself, can guide you into a life you've always wanted. You're closer to it than you think, just one habit away. Rest now, knowing that the power to change is already within you, quietly growing just beneath the surface. Tomorrow, you'll take that first small step, and it will lead you exactly where you need to be. The silent power of belief. Belief is a quiet force. It doesn't announce itself, doesn't demand attention, yet it shapes the way we experience everything. It's as if you're surrounded by an invisible thread, weaving through each thought, every action, without you ever realizing it. And yet, this silent power, this belief, holds more influence over your life than you might ever expect. Think for a moment about the things you believe about yourself. Maybe you've told yourself you're good at something, or perhaps you've convinced yourself that you're not. It could be something as simple as how you view your abilities, or as deep as how worthy you feel of love and happiness. These beliefs, whether you realize it or not, guide how you move through the world. They decide what you try, what you shy away from, what you expect. But here's the thing. Belief doesn't always need proof to be powerful. Often, the beliefs we hold are not based on hard evidence, but rather on experiences, emotions, or even things we've been told. Over time, these beliefs settle into our minds, becoming as natural as breathing, and we forget that they're just ideas. Ideas that have somehow taken root and shaped how we see ourselves and the world around us. When you believe in something, whether it's in your abilities, your potential, or your worth, it sets in motion a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. Think about a time when you truly believed you could succeed at something. How did it feel to take action, to move forward with confidence? And on the other hand, think of a time when you doubted yourself. Did that doubt hold you back, stop you from reaching for what you wanted? It's all connected to belief. What you believe about yourself, about others, and about the world has a deep impact on how you experience it. But belief isn't always a conscious thing. Much of it happens quietly in the background, shaping your choices without you even noticing. The beliefs you have about your life, your relationships, and your possibilities are often hidden beneath the surface, silently guiding you. They can limit you, but they can also empower you. And sometimes, the most freeing thing is realizing that you can change what you believe. Imagine for a moment that you could choose what to believe, that you could gently shift your mind to see the possibilities instead of the limitations. It's not a quick change. It doesn't happen overnight. But with time and patience, you can begin to reshape the beliefs that no longer serve you. You can begin to believe in your strength, in your capacity to grow, in your worthiness of happiness and peace. As you rest now, let yourself feel the gentle truth of this. Belief is not something that controls you. It's something you can shape, a quiet power that resides within you, ready to guide you toward your fullest potential. Rest in the quiet of this knowing and drift into sleep, trusting that each belief you hold can be a step toward a new, peaceful tomorrow. Memory is mostly fiction. Memory is mostly fiction. That might sound strange at first, but as you sink deeper into this moment, I want you to think about it with an open heart. Imagine your memories like a collection of pictures in an album, each one representing a moment in time. But what if I told you that some of those pictures were never taken? What if the faces, the colors, the sounds, everything you remember, wasn't quite as it seemed? You see, our memories aren't perfect records. They're more like stories we tell ourselves, shaping and reshaping with each passing day. Every time you remember something, your brain isn't simply retrieving a picture-perfect snapshot of the past. It's reconstructing it. The images, the emotions, even the people. It's all pieced together, like a puzzle. But not all the pieces fit perfectly. Some are missing, some are added, and sometimes pieces are simply imagined. Think about a time in your life that feels vivid, something you've remembered over and over again. Perhaps it was a holiday, a conversation, or a small but meaningful moment. Now close your eyes and picture it. How do you feel as you bring that memory to life? You may notice that some details are clear while others are vague. The colors may seem brighter than they were, the laughter louder, but can you be sure that's how it really was? The more we revisit memories, the more they bend to our current understanding, our emotions, and the stories we've created about ourselves. Even the simple act of recalling a memory can change it. Our brains are constantly adding layers to our past, influenced by what we know now, what we feel now, and what we think we should have done. In fact, research shows that the more we revisit a memory, the more likely we are to alter it, even without realizing it. A slight change here, a misplaced detail there, until what we recall no longer resembles what truly happened. And yet, despite this fluidity, memory feels real. It feels like truth. That's because the mind works hard to make it feel that way. Your brain wants you to believe in your memories, to trust them, because without that trust, you would lose the connection to your past, to the person you were. It's a comforting thought, isn't it? To know that your past has meaning, that it's stable, that it's something you can rely on. But what if instead of seeing this as a flaw, we saw it as a beautiful gift? A memory, in all its imperfections, helps us grow, helps us heal. It isn't bound by the rigid lines of reality. It flows, it breathes, it adjusts, just like we do. And sometimes, in its creative fluidity, it gives us exactly what we need to understand ourselves, to make sense of who we've become. As you drift deeper into sleep, allow yourself to release the need for your memories to be perfect. Let them be what they are, beautiful, flawed, and uniquely yours. Rest in the knowledge that it's okay if your past isn't exactly as you remember it. You're not defined by what you've seen. You're defined by how you feel. And that's a story you can trust, no matter what. How shame controls your actions. Shame. It's such a quiet, powerful force. We carry it, often without even realizing it, tucked deep within us, like a shadow that never leaves. At first, shame might seem like just an uncomfortable feeling. maybe something we try to push away when it rises. But it's more than that. It shapes the choices we make, the way we see ourselves, and even the way we move through the world. When you feel shame, it's like a weight pressing on your chest, making you want to hide, to shrink, to disappear. It's that feeling that tells you you're not enough, or you've done something wrong. It's an invisible force that often runs in the background of your mind, pulling strings, making decisions for you that you don't even fully understand. Perhaps you felt it in small moments, when you say the wrong thing, or when you failed at something you tried so hard to do. It creeps in, wrapping itself around your thoughts, telling you that you've disappointed others, or worse, yourself. And in those moments, it becomes so easy to believe that you are your mistakes, that your worth is tied to those moments of failure. Shame whispers that you should hide those parts of you away, never show them again. But the truth is, shame controls your actions by convincing you to run from yourself. It makes you act out of fear, out of a need to prove you're worthy, or to avoid any more feelings of inadequacy. You might find yourself apologizing too much, trying to be perfect, or overcompensating just to feel like you're enough. It makes you conform to what others expect, because deep down, there's this fear that if you don't, they might see you as flawed, unworthy, or broken. And yet, when you let shame control your actions, it doesn't bring freedom. It traps you in a cycle of self-doubt, guilt, and unnecessary stress. It stops you from showing up as your authentic self. It teaches you to hide parts of you that are perfectly human, parts that are okay to feel and to experience. It keeps you from taking risks, from pursuing dreams, because you might make a mistake. And that mistake, that would mean more shame. But as you lie here now, drifting deeper into relaxation, know that shame is not the truth of who you are. It's not the definition of your worth. It's a feeling, yes, but it doesn't have to be the ruler of your life. You are more than your mistakes, your imperfections, your moments of weakness. You are a whole being, capable of growth, of learning, of change. Let go of the need to be perfect. Let go of the belief that you must always be right, always be enough. It's okay to be human. It's okay to make mistakes. In fact, it's the most natural part of being alive. And as you rest here, let that truth sink in. You don't have to run from shame. You don't have to hide or prove anything. You are enough just as you are. Let this quiet realization bring you peace, and let yourself drift gently into the comfort of rest. Learned helplessness and emotional paralysis. Learned helplessness and emotional paralysis are two quiet forces that can creep into our lives, slowly pulling us into stillness, making us believe that we no longer have the power to change. It often happens without us even realizing it, like a shadow in the background of our minds, growing softer and deeper as time passes. It begins with small, repeated experiences. You try something, you fail, you try again, and again, and again, but each time the result is the same. Maybe it's a relationship that never seems to improve, or a goal you've been chasing, only to see it slip further out of reach. Slowly, over time, you begin to feel like your efforts don't matter. You begin to believe that no matter how hard you try, nothing will change. It's as if the world itself is telling you, you're powerless. This belief settles deep inside, and one day, without warning, you find yourself simply stopping. You stop trying. You stop hoping. You may even stop feeling. It's like being wrapped in a thick blanket of fog, where everything around you feels distant and unreachable. The energy you once had, the will to move forward, fades. Your thoughts slow, your heart slows, and a sense of paralysis begins to take over. You begin to wonder if there's even a point to trying at all. What's the use? Becomes a constant refrain. But here's the thing. Learned helplessness isn't a truth about who you are. It's a feeling, a response to repeated setbacks. It's not the reality of your potential. It's simply a story that you've come to believe after too many moments where things didn't go the way you hoped. It's important to understand that this paralysis isn't weakness. It's a defense mechanism, a way your mind has tried to protect you from the pain of more failure. But while it may seem like a shield, it can often become a cage. It locks you in a place of stillness, where the world outside seems too overwhelming to approach. But what if you could see it differently? What if you could begin to gently remind yourself that each moment of struggle, each feeling of helplessness, doesn't define you? What if you could embrace the fact that some days simply showing up is enough? What if you let go of the need to have all the answers and simply allowed yourself to be? As you rest now, drifting into the quiet of the night, know that you don't have to be defined by moments of paralysis. You are not your setbacks, and you are certainly not powerless. You're a person who has lived through things, learned, adapted, and grown. Even in those moments when it feels like you can't move forward, you're still moving. You're still breathing. Your story isn't over yet. Tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after that, you will find small ways to begin again. And that's okay. It's okay to take your time. Just like the calm rhythm of your breath now, you don't need to rush. One small step, one gentle breath at a time. Your strength is there, even in the stillness. Trust that when you wake, you'll have everything you need to begin again. Rest now in that quiet knowing. The invisible prison of routine. The invisible prison of routine. It's a strange thing, isn't it? You wake up in the morning, and without thinking, your body and mind slip into the familiar motions. The coffee, the shower, the walk to work, the same places, the same faces, the same tasks. The days blend together, and before you know it, another week has passed, another month, another year. It feels safe, doesn't it? The rhythm of it, the predictability. But if you pause for just a moment, just a breath, you might begin to wonder, are we truly free? Routines are comforting. They hold us steady in the chaos of life, offering a sense of control and normalcy. They give us structure in a world that's often unpredictable and overwhelming. But what if the very thing that feels so safe is also the thing that keeps us from seeing the world more clearly? What if the routine that comforts us is also the same thing that limits us? The truth is, routines shape our lives in ways we don't always realize. Each day, we follow the same path, not because we've consciously chosen it, but because it's become our habit. It's easy to fall into the rhythm, to let the days slide by without noticing the small ways we're held captive. We get so accustomed to the routine that we stop questioning it. We stop asking if it's serving us. We just move through the motions. But here's the thing. When we stop questioning our routines, we also stop questioning ourselves. We become so wrapped up in the familiar, we forget how much of the world is still out there, waiting for us to explore, to experience, to grow. We start living on autopilot, responding to life without fully engaging with it. The invisible prison of routine doesn't always feel like a prison. It's soft, it's easy, but over time, it can quietly take away the spark, the curiosity, the wonder that once made us feel alive. So, as you lie here, drifting towards rest, I want you to gently consider this. What would it be like to step outside of the routine just for a moment, to allow yourself the freedom to see things differently, to try something new, to let go of the predictable? Maybe it's in the smallest things, a new route home, a different way of starting your day, a new habit that feels exciting, not restricting. Each small change, each small step, can open up a world of possibility, a world that's always been waiting, just beyond the edges of your routine. But don't worry, you're not being asked to throw everything away. Routine has its place. It can ground us. It can help us feel safe. But it's important to remember that we have the power to step outside of it. And when we do, even just for a moment, we reclaim a piece of ourselves. We remember that we are not bound by the things we do every day. We are free to choose, to explore, to create. And with that gentle awareness, you can rest, knowing that you have the power to break free whenever you choose. Just as the night gives way to the day, so too can your routine give way to the beautiful unknown. Allow yourself to drift, feeling that quiet sense of freedom as you slip into sleep. What your dreams are really telling you, what your dreams are really telling you is more profound than you might think. As you drift gently into sleep, it's as if your mind opens a secret door to a world where your deepest thoughts and feelings come to life in ways that don't always make sense. But even in their wildest forms, dreams carry with them messages, whispers of the soul. Imagine for a moment that your waking mind is like a busy room, filled with the noise of daily tasks, worries, and responsibilities. But as you close your eyes, your mind becomes quieter, and the room empties. What fills it now are your subconscious thoughts, those that don't get the chance to speak while you're awake. Dreams are the language of your subconscious, and they often tell you things you may not be fully aware of. Sometimes dreams seem random or strange, like flying through a forest or being chased by something you can't see. But when you look closely, they may be offering you a mirror of your emotions, your anxieties, or your desires. When you're flying, for instance, it may represent a desire for freedom, an urge to break free from restrictions. If you're running from something, it could be your mind trying to tell you that there's something you're avoiding in your waking life, something that needs attention but hasn't been faced yet. Your dreams are also filled with symbols. A house might represent your sense of self, with each room reflecting a different part of you. A storm could represent turmoil, not just in the world outside, but inside your heart. Often, these symbols are not literal, but metaphorical, designed to help you reflect on areas in your life that need healing or change. Perhaps a dream where you're standing at a crossroads is pointing to a decision you're grappling with, one that you've yet to fully acknowledge. But dreams don't always bring negative or unsettling feelings. Sometimes they give you glimpses of joy, beauty, and peace, times when you're walking in a serene landscape or holding hands with someone you love. These dreams might be offering reassurance, giving you a sense of comfort that you are exactly where you need to be, or reminding you of the love and support around you, even when you feel alone. as you sink deeper into your dreams, remember that they are not random. They are your mind's way of processing, reflecting, and guiding you. They allow you to connect with emotions and experiences that you may not always be aware of, making space for growth and healing. Your dreams are your inner wisdom, speaking to you in ways that words sometimes cannot. So as your body relaxes and your mind starts to let go, trust that the messages in your dreams are there to guide you gently, like a soft whisper, toward a deeper understanding of yourself. You don't have to understand every detail now. Let it be enough to know that your mind, in its infinite wisdom, is always working to help you. Just breathe deeply, let go of the day, and allow your dreams to lead you to the answers you seek. Answers that you will find, not with your waking mind, but with your heart. And as you drift deeper into rest, let these quiet reflections ease you into peaceful slumber. Why humans love suffering stories? Why do we love stories about suffering? The tales that move us deeply, make our hearts ache, and stir emotions we often try to avoid. There's something about human pain that draws us in, even when it's not our own. We listen, we watch, we feel. But why? It's a curious thing. On the surface, you might wonder why anyone would choose to immerse themselves in sadness, tragedy, or hardship. After all, our natural instinct is to move away from pain, to seek comfort, safety, and peace. Yet, when it comes to stories, we're often captivated by the very things we might try to avoid in real life. The answer, perhaps, lies in the way these stories connect us. When we witness someone else's suffering, it creates a bond, a sense of shared humanity. We see ourselves reflected in those struggles. We recognize that, just like the characters, we are fragile, we are vulnerable, and we too face our own challenges. In those moments, we're reminded that we're not alone, that even in our darkest times, there is a shared understanding between us and the world around us. But it's more than just empathy. Suffering stories allow us to confront our own fears and pain from a safe distance. When we read about loss or witness heartache through the eyes of a character, we experience the emotion without actually living it. It's as if we're rehearsing, preparing ourselves for the inevitable hardships that life will bring. There's comfort in knowing that we can endure, even if it's just through the stories of others. These stories also offer us a sense of meaning. We all seek purpose, and suffering, in many ways, is a part of that search. We're drawn to stories where people emerge from pain with a greater understanding of themselves or the world. There's a sense of transformation that happens when someone overcomes their struggles. It's a reminder that hardship doesn't have to be the end. It can be the beginning of something new, something more meaningful. As you let yourself relax and begin to drift into a more peaceful state, think about the stories that have stayed with you, the ones that stirred something deep inside, even though they may have been filled with sorrow. Those stories are not just about the pain they portray. They're about how we find strength, how we find hope, and how we find connection through those very struggles. So as you allow yourself to soften into rest, know that there is beauty in the way suffering stories shape us. They teach us that even in our most difficult moments, we are not alone. They remind us that within every hardship, there is the potential for growth, for meaning, and for transformation. And as the quiet of the night wraps around you, let these thoughts carry you gently into sleep. A sleep filled with peace, with comfort, and with the knowledge that even in the darkest of times, there's always light on the other side. Your brain wasn't built for modern life. Your brain wasn't built for modern life. It wasn't designed to handle the constant flow of information, the never-ending noise, or the speed at which everything moves now. For thousands of years, our minds evolved to meet the needs of a much simpler world, a world where the pace was slower, and our biggest concerns were survival, shelter, and finding food. But now, as you lay here, with the hum of technology around you, and the weight of the day pressing gently on your mind, you might begin to feel the tension. It's almost as if your brain wasn't prepared for all of this, and in many ways, it wasn't. In the past, life moved with a rhythm. It was predictable. There were clear cycles, day and night, seasons, the rise and fall of the sun. Your ancestors didn't have to worry about emails, social media notifications, or the pressure to be constantly productive. Their minds focused on what mattered right in front of them. They had moments of rest, of quiet. Their brains weren't bombarded by 1,000 distractions. But now, your brain is asked to do something it wasn't designed for. You're expected to process endless streams of information, juggle multiple tasks at once, and make decisions in a world that's more complex than ever. Your attention is pulled in so many directions. It's no wonder it sometimes feels like you can't find a moment of peace. Your mind wasn't meant to be on alert all the time. It wasn't built to keep up with the relentless pace of modern life. The stress and anxiety that many of us feel, they're not just the result of our thoughts. They're the natural consequence of a brain trying to adapt to a world that doesn't match its design. Every notification, every alert, every demand from the outside world, it all adds to the mental weight you carry, even when you don't realize it. And yet, there's beauty in this. Your brain may not be built for this modern world, but it is incredibly resilient. Even though it wasn't designed for endless multitasking or constant stimulation, it adapts. It finds ways to cope. You find ways to cope. You carve out moments of stillness, of quiet, even in the middle of the noise. As you settle into this moment, think about the quiet, the natural pace of your breathing, the way the world slows down, just a little, when you give yourself space to rest. Your brain doesn't need to be on all the time. It doesn't need to solve every problem or process every bit of information right now. Right here, in this moment, you can let go of the noise. Let your mind relax. Let it find its natural rhythm again. Your brain wasn't built for modern life, but that doesn't mean it can't thrive in it. It simply needs time to rest, to reconnect with its roots. So as you drift into sleep, know that your mind is just doing what it was always meant to do, resting, healing, and finding balance. And in that stillness, you'll find peace. The truth about motivation. Motivation, we all crave it. That spark that pushes us forward. That feeling that we're ready to take on the world. It's easy to think of motivation as something that comes in a rush, like a wave, suddenly lifting us up and carrying us to where we want to go. But in reality, motivation is much more subtle. It's not always a loud, energetic force. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's barely a whisper. We often think of motivation as the thing we need before we begin, like a prerequisite. We wait for it, hoping it will appear out of nowhere and sweep us into action. But motivation doesn't always work that way. It's easy to forget that motivation often comes after we start moving, not before. In fact, the first step is usually the hardest. It's in the beginning, when we're unsure, that motivation feels the most elusive. But once we take that first step, something shifts. It's as if the act of doing something small, even when we don't feel like it, sparks the energy we need to continue. You may have noticed this in your own life, how once you've started a task, it becomes easier to keep going. That's because motivation is often a product of progress. The momentum builds slowly, like a soft current pulling you along once you've taken the plunge. The more you do, the more you want to do. Motivation also doesn't always come from external rewards. It's not always about achieving something big or winning approval. Sometimes the simplest things can ignite that spark within you, like a sense of accomplishment, the joy of learning, or even the comfort of a routine. The small quiet moments of success matter just as much as the loud ones. And in those moments, you can find motivation, not from the promise of a reward, but from the satisfaction of simply doing. But let's be honest, there will be times when motivation feels hard to find, when it seems like it's nowhere to be seen. During those moments, it's important to remember that it's okay. Motivation isn't something you can force. It can't be summoned at will, no matter how hard you try. And that's part of its beauty. Motivation is like a companion that comes and goes, and there's no need to chase it too desperately. Instead, you can give yourself permission to rest, to wait, and to trust that it will return when it's ready. As you drift towards sleep, consider this. Motivation is not a magic force that appears whenever you want it. It's a gentle, evolving energy that moves through you as you take steps, however small they may be. It's okay to pause, to let it ebb and flow. And when the time comes, when you feel ready to move again, you'll find that motivation has quietly been waiting for you all along. Let that thought soothe you, and as you rest, trust that everything is unfolding at its own pace. There's no rush. Just let go, and know that you'll find your way, one step at a time. Mirror neurons and emotional contagion. Mirror neurons, they're invisible, yet they shape so much of our experience. These tiny, silent parts of your brain allow you to feel what others are feeling. When you see someone smile, your brain lights up as though you were smiling yourself. When you watch someone in pain, your body tenses, mirroring their discomfort. You might not always notice it, but your mind is constantly reflecting the world around you. And with that reflection, something deep happens. You catch emotions, just as you might catch a cold. This process is called emotional contagion. You've probably felt it without realizing. The way a single person's laughter can fill a room, making it hard not to smile. Or how a wave of sadness can suddenly weigh down an entire group, even if no one says a word. It's not just coincidence. It's the way your brain is designed, like a sponge soaking up the feelings and moods of those around you. You might wonder, how do we even end up absorbing these emotions? How does the feeling of another person become your own? It starts with the mirror neurons. They've been with you from the very beginning, helping you understand others. When you see someone else's face light up with joy, your brain copies that joy. When you see someone close their eyes in pain, your brain mimics that discomfort. It's almost as if your brain is telling you, I understand you, I feel you. And yet, in a quiet way, this can be both beautiful and overwhelming. You see, Emotional contagion doesn't only happen with joy and laughter. It happens with stress, anxiety, and fear too. If you've ever walked into a room where the mood was tense, you might have felt your heart rate quicken without knowing why. Or perhaps you've been around someone so calm, so peaceful, that you couldn't help but feel your own worries fade away. These emotions spread from person to person, like ripples in a pond, and your mirror neurons make it all possible. But while this is a natural part of being human, it's also something you can be aware of. Understanding that your emotions are not always entirely your own can bring a sense of relief. It's like realizing that you don't have to carry every feeling that enters your space. You don't need to hold on to the anxiety that isn't yours or the sadness you're picking up from someone else. By recognizing emotional contagion, you can choose to gently let those emotions pass through you, rather than settle inside you. As you drift off to sleep, think about the power of your own feelings. Think about how much they can affect the world around you. Your own calm, your joy, your peace can be mirrored and spread just as easily as stress and fear. And when you wake, remember, you have the ability to choose the energy you carry, the emotions you reflect. Your mirror neurons work both ways, reflecting not just what others feel, but also what you bring into the world. Let that thought soften your mind as you sleep, knowing that you, too, are part of a beautiful, interconnected web of emotions, flowing gently through the night. How social media rewires the brain. Social media. It's a strange thing, isn't it? It feels almost invisible sometimes, like a soft hum in the background of our daily lives. But in truth, it's not as harmless as it might seem. It has a way of quietly shaping our minds, gently changing the way we think and feel, and even how we see ourselves. Over time, it has rewired the brain in ways that we might not always notice, but the effects are there, influencing us in ways we often don't realize. You might think of social media as a place to connect with friends, to share moments, or even to escape. But as you scroll through your feed, your brain is constantly absorbing information. With each notification, your brain releases a little burst of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that's tied to pleasure and reward. It's the same chemical your brain releases when you eat something sweet or when you receive good news. And just like those other experiences, it creates a craving for more. Every like, comment, or new post offers a tiny hit of this chemical, reinforcing the behavior. Over time, your brain begins to associate social media with pleasure and excitement. It starts to crave the next notification, the next scroll, the next moment of validation. And the more it craves, the more time you spend online, the more your brain becomes wired to expect that constant stream of stimulation. But what happens when you step away from your phone? The absence of those little dopamine hits can feel a little unsettling. It's like a withdrawal, a subtle emptiness. It's because, over time, social media has become a shortcut to feeling good. Your brain has learned to depend on these quick bursts of reward to maintain a sense of happiness or connection. And the longer this goes on, the more it alters the way you respond to the world around you. This shift isn't all bad, though. Social media connects us in ways that weren't possible before. It allows us to share ideas, form communities, and learn about different cultures. But it also creates a kind of distortion. We compare ourselves to what we see online, measuring our worth against the carefully curated versions of others. We begin to look for validation, sometimes from strangers, and forget that true contentment doesn't come from external sources. It comes from within. And when you lie down to sleep tonight, notice how the world feels a little quieter, a little simpler. You don't need to keep scrolling. Your mind, just like your body, needs rest. The effects of social media, though subtle, can be left behind as you drift into sleep. Your brain has time to reset, to untangle the threads of information, and to return to its natural rhythm. As you fall into a deeper, peaceful sleep, allow your mind to rest from the constant noise of the world. Let it release the need for approval, the need for comparison, and simply embrace the stillness. In the silence, you'll find the space to reconnect with yourself, free from the ever-present pull of your digital world. And as you drift further into relaxation, remember that you don't need external validation to be at peace. You've already got everything you need within you. You will never truly be seen. It's a thought that might feel a little heavy, a little unsettling, but let it linger softly in your mind for a moment. Imagine it not as something to fear, but as a quiet truth that can help you find peace. Because in a way, it's freeing to accept that no one will ever fully see you, not in the way you long for, not in the way you imagine. We all carry a secret longing deep within us, the desire to be truly understood, to have someone look into our eyes and see all of us, to know the thoughts, the feelings, the quiet ache that rests inside our hearts. We yearn for this kind of connection, the kind where every nuance of our being is recognized and embraced. But here's the thing. No matter how much we wish for it, no one can see us in our entirety. What others see of us is always shaped by their own experiences, their own filters. When they look at you, they're seeing not just you, but the stories they've told themselves about who you are, the pieces of you they've already decided to understand. It's not that they're wrong. It's just that what they see is only a part of you, the part that fits within the boundaries of their own world. And then there's you, the way you see yourself. You carry your own inner landscape, full of thoughts and emotions that may never find words. You experience moments and feelings that you might not even be able to express, things that slip through your fingers before you can catch them. You are a world of your own, and sometimes it feels as though no one, not even you, can fully comprehend it. But maybe that's okay. In accepting that you will never be fully seen, you free yourself from the pressure of needing to be understood in totality. You let go of the idea that anyone must fully grasp the depths of your heart. Instead, you begin to understand that what matters is not being seen perfectly by others, but being at peace with the parts of you that are hidden, even from yourself. There's beauty in the mystery. There's peace in the quiet, knowing that you are more than anyone could ever fathom. In a way, it's like being a gentle enigma, unfolding slowly in the silence of your own existence. You're not an open book for others to read, but a story that you will continue to write, one page at a time. And as you drift off to sleep, let go of the desire to be completely seen. Instead, rest in the comfort of knowing that you are enough as you are. In the stillness of the night, in the quiet of your mind, you can be fully yourself, unseen, and yet deeply understood by the part of you that matters most. The banality of evil, ordinary people, unthinkable acts. It's a concept that whispers unsettling truths, not about monsters and shadows, but about quiet compliance, about everyday choices, about how darkness doesn't always arrive with thunder, but sometimes slips in softly, masked by duty, by routine, by silence. You see, when we think of evil, we often imagine something extreme, violent, deranged, so far removed from us that it feels safe to judge, easy to distance ourselves from it. But reality is far quieter and much closer. The term banality of evil came from observing people who committed horrifying acts not out of hatred, but out of thoughtlessness, out of obedience, out of a refusal to question what they were told. They weren't driven by cruelty, but by an absence of reflection. They followed orders, filled out paperwork, checked boxes, and yet the consequences were devastating. That's the haunting part. It suggests that evil isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's ordinary, and that makes it even more dangerous, because it means it could live in systems, in structures, even in people who don't see themselves as villains, people like us. But this isn't about blame. It's about awareness. Because once we understand this, once we accept that humans are capable of ignoring their own conscience in the name of routine, we also begin to understand how important it is to stay awake, to question, to feel. No one wants to believe they could be part of something harmful, but history shows us that without mindfulness, even the kindest people can become participants in pain. It doesn't start with hatred. It starts with small silences, with turning away, with convincing ourselves that it's not our responsibility. So how do we guard against it? Not by fearing our own darkness, but by staying deeply connected to our humanity, by asking simple questions. Is this right? Why am I doing this? Who might be hurt by this choice? When we slow down, when we reflect, when we refuse to let numbness guide us, we create space for compassion, for courage, for change. Let that thought drift with you now, not as a weight, but as a gentle invitation to stay soft, to stay curious, to stay human, even when the world around you forgets how. And as you begin to surrender to sleep, remember, it's not dramatic evil we must fear the most. It's the quiet kind, the kind that blends in, the kind that asks for nothing but silence. But in that silence, you have a voice, you have a choice. And that is what keeps us awake in the ways that matter, even as we rest. The fear of intimacy. When closeness feels dangerous, it's not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it hides in the pauses between texts, in the sudden urge to pull away when things get too warm, or in the way we laugh off our own vulnerability, pretending we're fine, when deep down we feel anything but. Intimacy is more than physical closeness. It's emotional openness. It's the quiet courage to let someone see you, not just the parts you've polished, but the messy ones too. The parts that cry too easily or shut down without warning. The parts shaped by old wounds. But for many, that kind of closeness doesn't feel safe. It feels risky, even dangerous. Why? Because somewhere along the way, closeness may have been paired with pain. Maybe it was a betrayal that cut too deep, or a love that left without explanation, or the experience of giving your heart only to watch it slowly slip through someone else's fingers. Over time, the mind learns to protect. It wraps those memories in caution, and that caution grows into distance. You might not even notice it happening. You smile, you connect, but just when things begin to deepen, your instincts whisper step back, and so you do. You protect your peace, but also you keep yourself a little lonely, It's not that you don't want intimacy. You do, but there's a part of you, quiet and guarded, that fears what might happen if you're truly known. What if they don't like what they find? What if you open up and it's not enough? Or worse, what if it is, and then they leave? But here's the truth. Closeness doesn't have to be dangerous. Not when it's slow. Not when it's honest. Not when you begin with yourself. Because the first intimacy, the one that matters most, is with your own heart, with learning to sit gently with your fears, to say, yes, I've been hurt, but I'm still open, just a little, just enough. Intimacy isn't all or nothing. It's built in tiny moments, in quiet honesty, soft glances, shared silence. It's not about being fearless. It's about being brave enough to stay, even when you're scared, to let someone in, not all at once, but gradually, until you begin to feel safe again. So as you drift tonight, think not of what you've lost, but what you're still capable of giving. Let your breath soften, let your body rest, and let the possibility of closeness feel less like a threat and more like an invitation. You are worthy of being seen, not just the surface, but the soul. And when you're ready, you'll let the right ones in, slowly, tenderly, in your own time. Why we sabotage? What we want most is one of the quiet tragedies of being human. It seems strange, doesn't it, to dream of something, to ache for it, work toward it, wish for it in the quiet corners of your mind, and yet, when it draws near, to push it away. But this happens more often than we like to admit, not because we're broken, but because something deeper is at play. Sometimes we carry a belief, rooted so deep we barely notice it, that we don't deserve good things, that love, success, peace, whatever it is we long for, isn't really meant for us. Maybe it was a childhood voice, a memory, a wound that left us with the idea that happiness has to be earned, that rest must be paid for, that joy is temporary and will surely disappear if we get too close. So when the thing we want most begins to arrive, fear whispers, what if it doesn't last? What if you lose it? What if you're not enough for it? That fear doesn't always shout. It works quietly, nudging you to delay, to doubt, to withdraw. And before you know it, you're the one standing in your own way. Other times, it's about identity. If you've told yourself for years that you're the underdog, or the fixer, or the one who's always overlooked, then actually receiving the thing you want feels unfamiliar, even threatening, because it challenges the story you've always believed about yourself. In our minds, as much as they long for change, also cling tightly to familiarity. Self-sabotage isn't failure, it's protection. It's a younger version of you, trying to keep you safe the only way it knew how. It's not trying to ruin your life. It's trying to protect your heart from disappointment, from pain, from loss. It just doesn't realize you're strong enough now to handle all of that. So what do we do with this? We begin by noticing, not with judgment, but with compassion. We pause and ask gently, what am I really afraid of here? And in that pause, something shifts. We stop running from ourselves and start understanding. The path to what we want most doesn't begin with striving. It begins with healing, with looking inward, with softening the armor we've worn for so long. So if you've ever stepped back when you should have stepped forward, you're not alone. You're human, and you're learning. And tonight, as you lie there, letting the world grow quiet, just know this: the part of you that wants to protect and the part of you that wants to grow, they can learn to walk together with time, with patience, with rest. And maybe, just maybe, tomorrow you'll take one step closer to what you've always wanted, not because you forced it, but because you finally believed you deserve it. How people use morality to manipulate. It's not something we often notice right away, because morality, on its own, feels like a good thing. It gives us a sense of right and wrong, a compass for living with others, a quiet structure that helps us feel safe. But like all powerful tools, when morality is placed in the wrong hands, it can become something else entirely. Sometimes people don't use morality to guide themselves. They use it to control others, to guilt them, to shape behavior not through care, but through pressure. And what's difficult is that it's often done subtly, wrapped in kindness, dressed as virtue. Think about the phrase, "a good person would do this." On the surface, it sounds harmless, even encouraging, but beneath it, there's a shadow, a suggestion that if you don't agree, you're not good, you're flawed, you're selfish. That kind of pressure doesn't leave much room for honest thought or gentle disagreement. It corners you, not with reason, but with the fear of being judged. This kind of manipulation shows up in relationships, in families, even in larger systems, like politics or media. And the hardest part? It works best when it makes you doubt yourself, when it ties your value as a human to your obedience, when doing what someone else wants starts to feel like the only way to stay moral. But true morality doesn't demand. It doesn't twist your arm in the name of virtue. Real integrity is quiet. It invites, it reflects, it gives space, and it understands that we're all navigating life from different perspectives, different wounds, different paths. So if you've ever felt shame, not because you did something wrong, but because someone made you feel like you were bad for questioning them, that wasn't morality. That was control. And it's okay to step back, to take a breath, to ask yourself, is this truly my value, or someone else's voice pretending to be mine? The beauty is, you don't need to abandon morality to free yourself from manipulation. You just need to reclaim it, to listen to the quiet truths that live beneath fear, the ones that rise from compassion, not coercion. Let yourself rest tonight with this knowing. You are allowed to question. You are allowed to feel uncertain. You are allowed to follow a path that feels right to you, even if it doesn't please everyone else. And maybe, just maybe, as you drift into sleep, a little more of your own voice will return. Software, clear, yours. Desensitization, numbness from repeated pain. It's something that doesn't happen all at once. It's not loud or dramatic. It's slow, like a dimming light, a quiet fading of color, of sensation, of feeling. When pain first arrives in our lives, it's sharp, it stings, it shakes us. But when it returns, again and again, the mind starts to protect itself. It builds a cushion, a barrier, a space between you and the feeling. At first, that space might seem helpful, like a quiet room where the pain can't reach you. But over time, the space grows, and with it, something else disappears. Emotion begins to lose its texture. You stop feeling the highs as much as the lows. Moments that once moved you, songs, memories, voices, start to feel distant, like watching life through glass. And maybe you've caught yourself wondering, why don't I feel things like I used to? Why does everything seem flat? This is desensitization. It's your mind trying to protect you from what has hurt for too long. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means you adapted, You found a way to survive what kept returning. But here's the quiet truth. Numbness is not peace. It's not healing. It's just quiet pain. It lingers in the background. It makes you feel disconnected from others, from joy, even from yourself. And you might begin to miss things you didn't even realize were gone, like wonder, or hope, or softness. You may have heard people say, just feel your feelings. But when you've been desensitized, feelings don't come on command. They take time to reawaken. It begins with noticing. With moments like this, when you pause and give yourself permission to feel again. Not all at once, not everything. Just gently, safely, slowly. You are not meant to live behind emotional glass. You are meant to experience the world fully. Yes, that includes pain, but it also includes laughter, connection, awe, and those things are still inside you, waiting. So if you've been numb, if you felt that dull ache instead of clarity, know that your feelings aren't gone. They're just resting, and they'll return when they know it's safe, when they know you're ready to receive them again, not as enemies, but as messengers. For now, let that thought drift with you. Let it settle. You don't need to force anything open. Just trust that little by little, you will feel again. And when you do, the world will be waiting, softer, brighter, warmer, and so will you. The Curse of Overthinking. The Curse of Overthinking. It starts as a whisper, a small, innocent thought, something you forgot to do, something someone said, something you're afraid might happen. And before you even realize it, that tiny thought begins to unravel. Slowly, quietly, it pulls at a loose thread in your mind until suddenly it feels like your entire world is tangled in knots. Overthinking feels like control. It makes you believe that if you just think hard enough or long enough, you'll find clarity or peace or a solution. But the truth is, the more you spin those thoughts in your head, the more distant peace becomes. Like trying to find stillness in stormy water by splashing harder. Your mind, when left unchecked, can become a maze. You go over conversations from earlier, dissecting every word, imagining what you should have said, what they really meant, how it could have gone differently. You worry about tomorrow, next week, next year, painting endless possibilities in your head, most of which will never come true. But each one feels just real enough to steal your peace. Overthinking often comes from care, from wanting to get things right, from fearing pain or failure or disappointment. And in that way, it's understandable. It means you're thoughtful. It means you're deeply aware. But sometimes the mind confuses awareness with responsibility. It thinks it must solve everything, fix everything, predict everything. And that's where the wait begins. The truth is, not every thought needs an answer. Not every scenario needs to be prepared for. Not every emotion needs to be understood in the moment it arises. There's a deep kind of wisdom in learning to let a thought pass, like a cloud in the sky, without reaching out to hold it. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness beneath them, the stillness that exists even when your mind is busy. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to step back, to whisper gently to your mind, "Not now. It's time to rest." Let yourself rest in the not knowing. Let your breath be your anchor. Feel your body soften with each inhale and each slow exhale. There's nothing you need to solve right now. No puzzle to complete. No outcome to predict. Overthinking may feel like a curse, but within it lies a hidden gift. It reminds you to pause, to come home to yourself, to remember that peace isn't found by thinking harder, but by letting go. And as you drift off, know that it's safe to release those thoughts. One by one, let them fade, like stars melting into the morning sky. You've done enough. You are enough. And now, it's time to rest. The comfort in predictable misery. It sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? Comfort and misery, side by side. But for many, it's a quiet truth, one they live with, often without realizing. Sometimes we find ourselves stuck in patterns, in places, in relationships that no longer bring us joy. We know they drain us, limit us, hold us back, and yet we stay. Not because we're weak, not because we don't want better, but because the misery is familiar. There's something about knowing what to expect, even if it hurts. The pain becomes predictable, and in a world so uncertain, predictability can feel like safety. We tell ourselves, at least I know how this feels, and that knowing becomes a strange kind of shelter, one that's dim and tight, but known. The mind likes patterns. It likes to repeat what it's seen, especially if those patterns were formed in childhood. If you grew up around instability, maybe chaos feels normal. If love was always paired with fear, maybe love still feels incomplete without it. We repeat what we recognize, even if what we recognize doesn't serve us anymore. Breaking free from predictable misery means stepping into the unknown, and the unknown is terrifying. It means risking new pain, facing unfamiliar fears, challenging the identity you've built around your suffering, and that can feel too big, too overwhelming. So instead, we stay. But here's something to hold on to. You don't have to leap into the unknown all at once. You just have to get curious. Gently ask yourself, what would it feel like to be free from this? Not to fix it all tonight, but to imagine, to breathe into the possibility that life could feel different. You're not weak for staying in what hurts. You're human, and humans crave what they know, but you are also capable of choosing, even slowly, even one small step at a time. You can soften the grip of the old without rushing into the new. So as you lie here, let yourself feel safe, not because the misery is predictable, but because you're beginning to see it. You're beginning to understand it. And awareness is the first light that touches the walls of any cage. There's comfort in what we know, but there's freedom in what we begin to question. You're not trapped. You're just resting. And tomorrow, or the next day, or the one after that, you might feel ready to loosen your grip, to take a breath outside that old familiar pain, and discover that comfort, real comfort, doesn't have to come with misery attached. Let that thought settle with you now. Let it hold you softly, like a whisper in the dark. You're not alone in this. You're just awakening, even as you fall asleep. Why apologies don't always heal. It's something we've all felt in one way or another. A quiet ache that lingers, even after someone says, "I'm sorry." You hear the words, maybe even see the remorse in their eyes, and yet something inside you remains unsettled, still tender, still waiting. We're taught that apologies are the magic words, that if someone admits they were wrong, healing naturally follows. But emotions aren't that simple. Pain doesn't follow a script, and forgiveness can't be forced by a phrase, no matter how sincere it sounds. Because sometimes it's not about the words at all. Sometimes the hurt cut deeper than language can reach. Maybe the betrayal fractured something sacred, like trust or safety. Or maybe the apology came too late, long after you had learned how to live with the silence, long after you'd built your own kind of peace. Apologies don't always land where they're aimed. And that's because healing isn't about hearing, "I'm sorry." It's about feeling seen, feeling understood, and feeling like the one who caused the wound is willing to sit with its weight, not just wipe it away. True healing requires more than words. It requires time, presence, sometimes even distance, and the courage to acknowledge that some things might never return to what they once were. That doesn't mean they're ruined. It means they've changed, and sometimes that change is necessary. There are also moments when the person apologizing doesn't fully understand what they broke or why it hurt so deeply. And when you sense that gap, when the apology feels more like an obligation than an offering, your heart stays guarded. It knows the difference. But here's something gentle to remember. Not all apologies are meant to fix. Some are simply a step in someone else's journey. And you don't have to accept one if it doesn't bring peace. Your healing isn't dependent on anyone else's readiness to say sorry. You can heal even without an apology, even if the apology comes but feels hollow, even if it never comes at all, because healing is an inward path, and it begins when you stop waiting for someone else to repair what they broke and start holding your own heart with care. So if you've ever wondered why the words didn't lift the weight, know that you're not alone and that it's okay. Healing looks different for everyone. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it takes years. But it always starts with truth. And as you drift tonight, just let that truth settle in your chest. Gently, softly. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to feel what you feel. And you are allowed to heal in your own way, in your own rhythm. No apology required. The fear of starting over. The fear of starting over. It's something we all feel at some point. That quiet ache at the edge of change. The uncertainty that slips in when something ends and something new begins. Even when a chapter has clearly closed, the idea of beginning again can feel like standing at the base of a mountain you never asked to climb. Maybe it's the end of a relationship, or walking away from a dream that once felt like your future. Maybe it's letting go of a version of yourself that no longer fits, but still feels familiar. Whatever it is, starting over can feel like failure, like loss, like being thrown into the unknown without a map. But here's the gentle truth. What we call starting over is often just continuing, just moving forward. Because nothing is ever truly from scratch. You are never back at the beginning. You bring your wisdom, your lessons, your resilience. You carry the quiet strength of everything you've survived. Every version of you still lives in the roots of who you are. Still, the fear whispers, what if I can't do it again? What if I'm too late? What if I've already had my chance? Those are heavy thoughts, and they often come late at night when the world feels silent and your heart starts to speak a little louder. But fear is not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you care, that something matters enough to stir your soul. We often stay in places that feel wrong because they're familiar, because they're safe in their sameness. But growth is born in the space just outside your comfort, in the stretch, in the reaching, in the quiet bravery of beginning again. Starting over doesn't have to mean rushing, or proving, or rebuilding overnight. Sometimes it's just taking one honest breath, one step in a new direction, one small act of belief that maybe, just maybe, your next chapter holds more peace, more truth, more alignment. And even if you stumble, even if the path forward feels blurry and slow, that's okay. You're allowed to move gently, to rest when you need, to write this new story at your own pace. There's no finish line, only unfolding. So, if you find yourself standing at the edge of something new, let that be enough for now. Let the fear sit beside you without running the show. You are not lost. You are not late. You are simply in the in-between. And the in-between is where transformation begins. Close your eyes now and trust that the next part of your journey is already waiting for you, quietly, kindly, and in time, you'll meet it with open hands and a steadier heart. How validation becomes a drug. There's a feeling we all crave, a soft and comforting warmth that rises when others see us, when they acknowledge our worth. It's a simple thing, validation, a compliment, a well done, a like on a photo, a nod of approval, and for a moment, we feel good. We feel seen. But here's the thing. When that need for validation starts to grow, it can become like a drug. And just like with any drug, the more we get, the more we want. In the beginning, it might not seem like a big deal. We all want to feel appreciated, understood, loved. It's natural. We're social beings, wired to seek connection and approval. But somewhere along the way, when we start to rely on that external approval to define how we feel about ourselves, the balance shifts. That moment of warmth begins to fade, and we start to crave more. What begins as a small spark of joy can soon turn into a constant longing. We find ourselves looking for that next like, that next compliment, that next moment when someone notices us, when someone validates our existence. And the more we get, the more our sense of self-worth becomes tied to those external voices. We become addicted to them. It's like feeding a flame that can never truly be satisfied. The validation we once sought to feel whole now feels like a lifeline. Without it, we feel empty, disconnected, as though we've disappeared into the background. And it's easy to fall into this trap, to feel as though our worth is determined by others, by their reactions, by their attention. But the truth is that validation, as sweet as it may be, is fleeting. When we rely on it too much, we begin to lose touch with ourselves. We forget that our worth is not something that can be given or taken away. It was never meant to come from the outside. It comes from within. But when we're caught in the cycle of seeking approval, we forget how to nourish that inner sense of value. It's easy to lose ourselves in the noise of external voices. As you drift deeper into this peaceful space, think about the times you felt truly validated, not by others, but by yourself. Those quiet moments when you knew, deep down, that you were enough. In those moments, you didn't need anyone else's approval. You didn't need to seek out the world's applause. You simply existed, and that was enough. Remember that as you let go tonight. Your worth is already within you, patiently waiting for you to notice it, to appreciate it, to recognize it without needing someone else to do it for you. The world may offer its validation, but it's the quiet, unshakable sense of your own worth that will stay with you. Let that knowledge rest with you now as you gently drift into sleep. Your value is not something to chase. It is something to realize quietly, patiently, with love. Your attention span is being sold. Your attention span is being sold. It's not a concept that's easy to wrap your mind around, especially because it's something we rarely think about. But imagine this. Every moment you spend focused on something, whether it's a conversation, an article, or even scrolling through your phone, someone, somewhere is benefiting. Your attention has become a commodity, and every time you give it away, someone else profits. Think about how much time you spend each day consuming content, whether it's watching videos, reading posts, or even just staring at an endless feed of images. Your mind is constantly drawn to the next thing. It's easy to say it's just part of life, something we all do without a second thought. But have you ever stopped to consider the cost of that constant draw on your attention? The truth is, we live in a world that's designed to keep you focused, to pull your eyes and your thoughts in a million different directions. Every app you open, every website you visit, is tailored to capture and hold your attention for as long as possible. It's almost like you're being guided, gently nudged towards something you don't always realize you're heading toward. There's a subtle dance happening behind the scenes. You're given little bits of information, small rewards, just enough to keep you hooked. It's like a game of distraction, where your mind constantly shifts from one thing to the next. The longer you stay engaged, the more valuable your attention becomes, the more it's worth, and the more you're sold. But here's where it gets interesting. The more you give, the more difficult it becomes to control where your attention goes. Little by little, the power of your focus slips away from you. Without realizing it, you can spend hours on something that doesn't fulfill you, or even on things that don't matter at all. The constant pull on your attention becomes an invisible weight, wearing you down over time. Now think of your attention as a resource, something that's yours to give, something that deserves care and consideration. When you're aware of how often it's being asked for, you can start to make different choices. You can choose to hold on to it longer, to give it more thoughtfully, to rest it when it needs to be rested. Your attention is precious, and it deserves to be spent on things that nourish you, things that bring peace, connection, or joy. As you lie here, letting the weight of your day fade into the soft darkness, remember, you don't have to give away your attention whenever it's asked of you. You can decide where to place it, and more importantly, where to rest it. The world will always pull at your focus, but you have the power to gently let go when you need to. Allow yourself the freedom to reclaim your time, to reclaim your space, and to let your mind drift peacefully, knowing that your attention is yours to give. The quiet despair of unlived potential. There is a quiet despair that whispers in the background of our lives. It's not loud or dramatic, not something that demands attention. Instead, it's soft, gentle, a feeling that lingers in the space between our dreams and our reality. The quiet despair of unlived potential. Perhaps you felt it. Those moments when you wonder, what if I had tried that? What if I had taken a different path? It's a subtle feeling, almost like a gentle ache in your chest. It's the longing for something more, something you haven't yet reached. And it's not always about regret or failure. It's about what could have been, but hasn't been, yet. We all carry dreams inside us. They might be big, wild dreams, or quiet ones, small wishes we barely dare to speak aloud. But no matter the size, those dreams are a part of us. They shape us. They make us feel alive. When we don't pursue them, when we let them fade into the background, it's like we're leaving a piece of ourselves behind. But why do we leave them behind? Why do we often choose comfort or security over the unknown? Why do we stay stuck in patterns, knowing that we could be more, do more, feel more? It's not because we don't want those things. No, the longing for them remains, always. It's because somewhere along the way, we convince ourselves that we're not enough, that we don't have what it takes, that the world will judge us if we try and fail. So we settle. We get comfortable with the familiar, even if it means living with a quiet ache in our hearts. It's so easy to push those dreams aside, to tell ourselves we'll do them someday, only to realize that someday never comes. The years pass, and we wonder where the time went. But the truth is, time doesn't slip away. It's here, always, ready for us to make choices, small choices, that can bring us closer to the things we truly want. The despair of unlived potential is not something that should weigh you down. Instead, it's a reminder, a gentle nudge inviting you to reconsider, to take a small step in the direction of your dreams, even if it feels uncertain. Every little effort, no matter how small, adds up over time. Every moment you spend doing what you love, even just a little, is a step toward living the life you've always dreamed of. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be grand. Sometimes the most meaningful progress is quiet and subtle. It's the slow realization that you don't need to be someone else or live someone else's life to be happy. You just need to follow the path that feels true to you, even if it's a path you haven't walked yet. As you rest now, drifting into sleep, let the thought of your own potential comfort you. Know that you are not bound by yesterday's choices. You can still choose today and tomorrow. Each new moment brings the possibility of something different, something more. The quiet despair of unlived potential doesn't have to remain. It can transform into something beautiful, the quiet hope of new beginnings. Let that thought soften your mind and heart and gently guide you into a peaceful, restful sleep. The psychology of ghosting. Ghosting. It's a word that has become part of our everyday language, but its meaning stretches much deeper than its casual use might suggest. When someone suddenly disappears from your life, without warning, without explanation, it feels unsettling, like a sudden void, a silence that speaks louder than words. And yet, behind this silence, there's more than just abandonment. There's a complex web of emotions and motivations at play, both for the person doing the ghosting and the one left behind. It's easy to think that ghosting is simply about avoiding confrontation, that someone doesn't want to face the discomfort of telling the truth. And yes, in many cases, it is about avoidance. But there's something deeper happening beneath the surface, something in the way we connect, or sometimes fail to connect, with others. Ghosting often happens when two people reach a point where their connection, for whatever reason, no longer feels comfortable. It's not always about dislike, but about fear, discomfort, or uncertainty. Sometimes people aren't sure how to navigate their emotions, so they pull away instead of speaking up. They don't know how to explain themselves, or maybe they don't know how to face their own feelings, is also a reflection of how we've come to approach relationships in this fast-paced world. With technology at our fingertips, we form connections in an instant, yet those connections can feel fragile. A simple text or message can spark a bond, but just as easily, it can disappear. Ghosting becomes an easy way out of a situation where someone feels overwhelmed, anxious, or unsure about how to proceed. There's no need for confrontation, no need for an explanation, just a simple, silent exit. For the person on the receiving end, ghosting can leave a feeling of confusion, a sense of being discarded. The mind races to fill in the gaps. What did I do wrong? Was it something I said? Something I didn't say? We search for meaning in the absence of an answer, in the silence that speaks in a language we can't quite understand. And in that silence, emotions swirl. Hurt, rejection, doubt. These emotions can leave a lasting impact, making us question our worth or how we interact with others in the future. But what if, instead of blaming ourselves or the other person, we thought of ghosting as a form of self-protection? Sometimes, ghosting isn't a rejection of you as a person, but rather a reflection of the person's inability to handle their own emotions or their fear of vulnerability. It's not an excuse, but it can help soften the sting. When someone ghosts you, it says more about their ability, or lack thereof, to communicate and face difficult emotions. It doesn't diminish your worth or the connection you shared. It simply reflects a moment where they couldn't find the courage to be honest with themselves or with you. As you settle into the quiet of the night, remember that ghosting, like all painful experiences, is a part of human nature. It teaches us about boundaries, communication, and the importance of being true to ourselves. So, as you let go of the day, allow yourself to release any lingering thoughts about the past. In the stillness of this moment, know that your worth is not defined by another's actions. You are whole, just as you are.